Hey everybody, it's Pax. Welcome to the unboxing and hot takes extravaganza of the Scarlet Keys box. I'm Pax. Here I am on my webcam, and today I'm joined by the lovely Veronica from Until the End of Time. Oh no, I've messed up my screen capture already. There we go, better.
Don't worry. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Excellent. Hey, welcome everybody. It's
Hi.
Veronica from Until the End of Time.
So,
We have a
yeah, Veronica reached out to me. There it is. Veronica reached out to me a couple weeks ago and wanted to join me for the unboxing. So here we are. I don't know. Should we do introductions any more than this? You have your YouTube channel.
I'm happy with this. Yeah, I mean the only thing that I really want to say is that we had planned to do this the weekend that the box came out,
Yes,
but
we did.
why don't you tell them what happened?
So yeah, we did not get the box in Canada for some 3 weeks. It was
Yes.
released on Friday. So
So I've been sitting on this box for weeks and weeks and weeks and not opening it so that you can all see me open it right now. And I'm probably gonna be unable to open it because that's how it goes.
yeah. So, Scarlet Keys. We've all seen it by now, obviously, right? Like you said, 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks since it was released. So, um, not the hottest of takes, not the hottest of unboxings, but nevertheless, it will be unboxings. And here we go. I'll swap over to my table cam. There's the box. It's beautiful.
Also, wearing my Coterie membership shirt.
Nice, nice. I don't have any red.
Hopefully.
It's like
Uh,
the one I don't have any red or green shirts, and it always burns me on St. Patrick's Day and stuff like that. So the box is, I think, around. Is this bigger than the Edge of the Earth box was for player cards? This seems huge.
I think it's the same size.
I have a hard time believing it's.
I
I,
brought lockpicks to open this. Like it's
yeah, I've got hilariously we both I couldn't find my little pair of scissors that I normally use to open stuff up, and so we
bunch
both
of
ended
magic
up
keys.
finding lockpicks.
Or I guess for this box it will be Thieves
Thieves
Tools,
kit,
right?
yes, yeah, thieves
Yeah.
kit.
There we go. I get it. Like,
All right.
sorry, I might have to adjust my camera angle a little bit because I'm planning on, showing, holding things up, but I don't think that's going to be very practical for the entire stream. So
No, probably not. That's okay. Oh, did I remember to post this everywhere? I probably didn't.
I posted it on Reddit and Twitter, my Twitter already.
Oh,
So
nice.
hi everybody, you get to see my face, and then you get to see the wall for a bit, I guess. There we go. Oh, we're having a small amount of technical difficulties, but I believe we are now able to see. Oh, there's Mr. Patterson for moral support. While Bradley is posting stuff everywhere, let's
There we
just have a
go.
look at that.
I'll just post it in Mythos Busters. Those are my favorite
Oh yeah,
people,
that's
anyways.
probably a good. Let's post it in the Discord where we both spent most of our time, and
Yeah.
like where most of the people who might be interested in watching this would be. Let's not forget to post it there and just like completely. I do think also this might be a bad time to go live. Going by my live stream or my premiere yesterday,
Yeah.
because I think the Many Faces of Charlie Kane, which is by the way really cool. Also, thank you for participating because you're part of it.
Yes.
Um, but the premiere, like nobody showed up. Literally nobody was there for the premiere. But then a lot of people started tweeting and reposting and everything later. So I'm like super happy with how excited everybody is. But definitely felt like maybe 1 o'clock my time or 8 o'clock your time is not the
Wait,
right time
I
to be
guess
posting this stuff.
I guess like where it's 8 o'clock my time, that means it's like 4 a.m. Pacific. So,
Yeah,
all right, let's open this thing up. Let's see how much wasted airspace we've got. Okay,
it's
we've
not
got one.
like it's a lot, but
Oh my god.
hardcore. It's like two bricks of cards in there, and then wait, there's the rule thingy,
Mini
and
cards
there's
looking
our
good.
mini Curly and Carson.
So I'm gonna have to go put this back in nature, where it belongs. But that's okay. Well, bye bye Scarlet Keys box. So what do we got? We got one bag that's clearly the start of them, and we got another bag that's clearly the end of them. Let's take a look at
Yeah.
the mini cards first. Oh my God! Look at
Reading the rules.
this. Carson's like zoomed in. I know. So some people had like I don't know if I'd call it really criticism necessarily, but like some people are not fond of some of the art that goes on the characters, and I've seen some people say like, "Why is Carson's art look so funny?" And it's because like it's supposed to look like this, right? Like it's supposed to be
Hmm.
way more zoomed in, and sometimes the framing of the cards just does that.
Yeah.
Kaimani's looking sick.
Yeah.
Man, Amina's art is so detailed.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Amina is fantastic. I love both her new like we got a lot of the old classics in this box, but I think they really like knocked it out of the park with the two new includes.
Oh yeah, big time.
And then Charlie, of course. This is classic, right? Like I haven't played a lot of the other Arkham Vault game. The only Arkham Vault game that I've really played, other than Arkham LCG, is Eldritch Horror, and I always love playing Charlie in that one because I just like being able to help everybody else and like give everybody all the cool items.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. My first exposure to the game, my aunt and my uncle are actually super into the second edition of the board game. They have every single expansion, and they've had it since like release. Like they bought the game on release. They've always been really big board gamers. They got me into board gaming in a big way. They had like Puerto Rico and Race for the Galaxy and a bunch of old classics that I kind of learned on when I was a teenager. But I remember a couple of instances. We had a huge game one Christmas where they brought out like a custom The Grinch Elder God from Board
Oh
Game Geek.
wow.
And so like we all played one afternoon and we had to kill the Grinch and he demolished us. I don't know if it was
Oh
oh
wow.
yeah, the Grinch stole Christmas.
Through
Yeah.
Arkham ending, I suppose. Yeah,
Yeah.
the what do I want to say? Right. First of all, reminder to everybody watching, drink some water.
Oh yeah. Drink some coffee.
Stay hydrated. You too, because we're gonna be here well. And I've just grabbed the first bag. Do we want to do anything with the rules booklet? Because
I think probably by now everyone's seen the rules booklet. There's obviously
yeah,
the customizable rules in there. There's the dilemmas and revelation clarification on how revelations work
yeah,
during player cards.
customize all the final agenda. Quite nice to know.
Yep,
Um,
yep. Is there
yeah.
anything in the FAQ that's kind of notable? Not really. It's
I
all it's
mean,
all customizable stuff, isn't it?
no, it's dilemma. Dilemma is important. Did you have to know what happens when you draw the third one, if that ever comes up? I don't. I haven't played with dilemmas yet, other than like one copy of Nature of the Beast. So
That's
I
actually my
don't really
exact
know.
experience so far. Is that I've played a campaign where I have one copy of Nature of the Beast.
Yeah.
And when we get to Nature of the Beast, I'll talk about how that went.
Yeah.
So
Sounds
let's
good.
start with
Carson?
Carson. Carson Sinclair. So
Mr. Sinclair, I
Carson.
think I'm probably mirrored, aren't I?
Oh, it looks fine to me on my end. I think.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah, it looks
it's
fine to
mirrored
me.
on my screen, but it's actually fine on the YouTube preview. I can see that. I
So
have two
Carson,
monitors open.
um,
Yeah.
the stat line all twos, right? And then he
Hmm.
gets this additional action, which can be used to give other investigators actions, essentially on his turn. And then 6/6, the Elder Sign, which draws him a card, and you can do that anytime.
Yeah.
Another
Anybody at
investigator.
your location gets
Yeah,
an elder sign.
and I think Carson's really cool. I know people have been pretty negative on him, but I think he's going to be really fun, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see over the next couple of months how many people are just going to be like, yeah, Carson is a lot better than he worked in our campaign that we played, right? And it's going to it'll take some time, probably like Lola did, and probably like who are some other characters that kind of get
I want to say Skates and Jim, but I'm not sure if they've reached like the point where people are actually like hyped about them again.
um
So, oh, Mateo,
I'd say
Mateo
Mateo
has
for sure.
yeah.
Maybe Rita. I know a lot of people have always
Oh
said
yeah.
like Rita's a survivor, so it doesn't matter. But like personally, I've only ever had bad experiences with Rita, and I know it's partially play experience and play style. Because I know she's good. I have terrible luck when I play her.
I also think Rita is getting a lot of this box. We'll get to that when we get to the row cards, actually, not the
Yes,
survivor
yeah,
cards.
that's a
I'm
good
trying
point.
to find a good way to hold my cards, and it's not. I hope most people are just watching your view. I hope because if you're looking at my cards, you're not seeing anything. One thing that I want to quickly go back to on Carson is that you kind of glossed over it, but the 6/6 that bothers me. I really would like to talk to Maxine. Okay, don't tell Maxine, even though this is a public stream, and she might just pop in if she wants to. But I really want to do an interview with her at some point. But I get the 2/2/2 stat line because I think that's totally balanced for how powerful this ability is, right? Like
Yeah.
Investigators ultimately is a combination of stat line, ability, Elder Sign effect, health sanity, and deck building. Like all those things, and then signature card. So all those things combine balance an Investigator. And I understand that with this ability, which is way more powerful than it reads, like if you haven't played with it, it is more powerful than you think. But the 2/2/2 stat line kind of balances that out, I think. But the fact that he's 6'6" bothers me, especially with his weakness. I don't know if we want to just jump to that right
Yeah,
away.
I mean, we'll look at these guys holistically. So
Yeah.
selfless to a fault. It's at the end of your turn if you didn't commit at least a skill card performed by another investigator this turn. Sorry, one skill card to a test performed by another investigator
It's
this
like
turn.
you missed it.
You take a horror and shuffle it back into your deck.
Yeah.
So that you can only fulfill that during the action you give out, right?
Yeah.
And let's not get into the silly rules stuff about as if on.
No, but the thing here is that like it's a weakness that deals you a horror. I mean, always okay. So first of all, we should probably mention at least Carson weakness. You cannot clear it in solo, and his signatures as you wish. We can also not use it in solo because they have to be they're skill cards with 3 icons. They have to be committed to another investigator.
Yeah.
Skill test, and then if you succeed, if the test succeeds, that investigator gets a card. If the test fails, you get a card. It's pretty cool. You get 2 copies, which is nice. Better. I was kind of worried that he was only going to get 1 copy, and that would have been kind of meh. It's also notably practice traded, and if you go Seeker Carson, you can go Practice Makes Perfect, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
But back to the weakness real quick. I would have I understand why they didn't make Carson like an 8/6, right? Because that he's not a fighter. He's not meant to be on the front line like punching people in the face. But there's plenty of people in the mythos who get like a little bit more sanity to represent that, like, yeah, they can handle it. And with his weakness being this like recursive thing, I really would have loved it to have him be like a 6/8. And I don't really get why he just because like it feels to me like a little bit of a nerf because most investigators get 14 points of health and sanity, and so I'm like, why do that?
Yeah.
Also, I guess, do you want to mention quickly what his actual deck building
Oh
rules
yeah,
are?
the deck building is the Mandy and Tony style, but it's with Secret, Mystic, and Survivor. So
Yeah.
level 0 to 1 events and skills of the class you choose, which I think is actually like. I know people are also a little down on that, but I think that's what makes for really interesting choices.
I think it's really good.
Yeah, and I think it's
like
it is more limiting than some other deck building styles, but it's not so limiting that it's like you're not looking like you're like Nathaniel. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, yeah, you're just Guardian. Good luck.
Also, I just want to point out that the 3 of the investigators who have that deck building are Tony, Mandy, and Gloria, which are some of the strongest investigators in the entire game. Like, it's easy to like.
Yeah, and notably, they also all have a stat line with a 5 in it, right?
Yeah, that does help them a lot.
And so, they
Carson
all
does
have
not.
really highly min-maxed stat lines for what they like to do, and Carson doesn't get that, but Carson doesn't need that, right? That's not what he does as a character. So
One of the things that I've kind of tried, and I haven't played Carson more than once. I've played him with on a stream for me, a Sunday morning like testing stream. But one of the things that I really want to get into the mindset of is that Carson's stat boosting is using other people's stats instead. Like if you are standing next to a Daisy and you need to get a clue at your location, instead of you getting the clue, you give Daisy an extra action. Daisy gets the clue with her 5 intellect.
Exactly.
And now when Daisy plays her magnifying glass, you also effectively get a magnifying glass.
I guess that's exactly it, right? Like, if you think about it, like you only get to do this once per round for each investigator. But like, say all 3 characters are at one location. You've got a fighter with 5 combat. You've got an investigator with 5 intellect. He basically gets a 5 combat attack with whatever that player has out, and then he gets a 5 intellect investigate with whatever that player has out, right?
Yeah.
So like. Why are we not calling him a 2-5-5-2 in that instant? For that turn, that's what he effectively is. Kind of, right? Once. So, anyways, it's really interesting. And like I said, I think people are going to warm up to him a little bit.
Do you have I think we should probably move on to the next investigator because otherwise we're going to be talking about Carson all day. But one question: do you have a cool Carson deck idea?
No, I actually wanted to do Carson with dilemmas and try out at a crossroads and Nature of the Beast really badly.
That actually sounds really cool. The one deck that I've been kind of brewing is Bless Carson, because Blessing of Isis lets you trigger Elder Signs for anyone at your location, and then you also get the Elder Sign effect because you
Yep.
get the good draw card.
Yeah, and that's actually a huge boost to Blessing of Isis because I found Blessing of Isis is like really strong, but also like Elder Sign effects are only as good as passing a test and like a boost once in a while, and like also making that into a draw engine is quite interesting to me. I think that could be really cool.
Okay, so up
So
next we have Vincent Lee, the Doctor. Shall I take this one?
yeah,
This one
go
was
for it. Go for
previewed
it.
by Drawn to the Flame
Yep.
with Filian. So he's got 3 willpower, 4 intellect, 3 combat, and 1 agility. He's a medic. And whenever he heals somebody, he gets to give them a copy of On the Mend, which also, I guess, grotesque or like gore warning. A little late, but better late than never. Um, and then Elder Sign effect, +1, you may heal damage from an investigator or ally at your location, 9 health, 6 sanity. Can you tell us what On the Mend does?
On the Mend is a 2 wild skill card, limit 1 in your hand, commit only to a test you're performing. When it would be discarded from anywhere, you set it aside out of play instead.
Interestingly, you can still shuffle this into your deck, even if it's. And I don't know what happens if you try to do that and you're not the owner.
I
I don't also
believe,
want
I
to
think
know.
that there's that rule about like when the owner's card tries to get put into an out of play area, it goes into the owner's out of play area. So like, does he end up with a copy of On the Mend in his deck?
I
That's
think
weird.
so, but then that rule should also apply when you try to put it in somebody else's hand, right? That's the weird part with this card. Is like it shouldn't work to give to somebody else by that rule, but
Yeah,
then Gold rule says you can do that.
yeah. I
So
wonder what
it's it's
happens.
it's
I
a bit
guess the what's the most basic way to do that? It would be like Norman using the lever on this. Maybe would put it on the top of his deck. And
yeah.
it's funny because like intuitively you know exactly what to do with that because it's on top of his deck, right? Like you can
Mhm.
just do that. But then if he also plays a shuffle effect afterwards, then you're like, oh crap, okay, what do we do
Yeah.
now?
I don't know.
Yeah, and then he's got his bone saw and he's got the wounded bystander. The bone saw I think is like a decent little weapon.
Yeah, I'm always a little skeptical of or I've gotten more skeptical over the years for assets that take up slots as signature cards, just because experience has taught me that, like for example, Ursula's signature is kind of Jake Williams taking up an ally slot is just such a big cost.
Yep, yep,
Often having to like consider that an investigator might have one fewer of a certain kind of slot because they're typically going to play their
yep.
signature
I
is
think
like a big consideration.
yeah, and another way to kind of look at it is like I've got this thing that might be really good in scenario 1, but once I've got like 19, 20, 30 XP into my deck, it's like do I even need this anymore?
Yeah,
With the
I
bone
don't think I.
saw in Vincent, maybe, right?
So
Cuz
I've actually played Vincent a little bit off air as well. I'm playing a Edge of the Earth campaign with him, and I don't think I've gotten the bone saw down yet. But that's because my friend is playing a very funny Luke Dragonpole deck, which is not where I think a lot of people would go with Dragonpole. But it's because we have a Mystic card coming up that gives you more gain slots. Um, and so I haven't had to fight as much as normal. And I also he gets machete. We should probably mention his deck building.
yep.
Um, you want me to do it? Secret 30, or sorry, 30 deck size, secret cards, level 0 to 3, not 0 to 5. Um, Neutral 0 to 5, cards that heal damage 0 to 5, and up to 15 other Guardian and or Survivor cards.
Yeah. So it's
So,
like Secret Carolyn.
yeah,
Yeah.
and put bandages in your deck.
Yeah.
Just put bandages in your deck, and then put scavenging in your deck to get the bandages back. So,
Um
yeah, I think Vincent's great. I think he's a little easier to pick up than Carolyn was because he's doing a lot more things that are kind of staple to that faction.
yeah.
But he's still got a little bit of that like interacting with a resource that a lot of other decks don't. That
Yeah.
Carolyn also had.
I think the big thing about Vincent is that I'm really happy that and this is kind of a knock on Carolyn. I'm really happy that he doesn't have some restriction on weapons or something like that, like Carolyn does. Because for me, I've just found that in Carolyn to just not be very fun, not being able to have an upgraded weapon.
That's fair.
It's just if Vincent had something that like had some sort of Seeker equivalent where he couldn't do something that Seeker does, I'd just be like, oh come on, like I already only have 0 to 3 Seeker cards, right? And so I like that a lot about Vincent. I don't take that. I was worried when people saw this that they might be like, oh my god, yeah, here's Seeker OP again. But I think it's more about just maybe learning a lesson about what works and what doesn't. Because I don't think personally, for me at least, that Carolyn's restriction on weapons works very well, and I'm really glad that Vincent doesn't have something equivalent to that, because I don't think that Carolyn really needs it, and I don't think that Vincent really needs it.
No, I totally agree. Or I mostly agree with that. I don't have a big opinion on Carolyn, but I think the thing will always more of a like thematic one than
Exactly, and
like
and
mechanical
thematically
reasons.
it does work, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, that
I
it's
think
yeah,
the other thing with Carolyn that Vincent has very differently is Carolyn has a 3-4-2-2 stat line, and Vincent has a 3-4-3-1 stat line. And I think
yes,
if Carolyn got those two twos switched out for a 3 and a 1, it would probably be better for her as well.
yeah, yeah. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I like to when I see Vincent here, I like to think that this is any discrepancy between his power level and Carolyn's. I like to think of more of a lesson learned than a Seeker OP thing.
And I talk about my favorite investigator in the box and maybe the favorite investigator in the entire game at this point.
Yeah.
I love Kaimani Jones so
Kaimani
much.
Jones, 3225. The security consultant. Criminal, engage an exhausted enemy at your location, and then this reaction that lets you do an evade with your intellect added. If you succeed by at least X, where X is that enemy's remaining health, you get to discard the enemy outright. Have you seen the Elder Sign pop up very much in the games you've played with them?
A little, just a +1 Elder Sign is fine. I know that Frank on Drown to the Flame was already talking about getting it to pop off when he just evaded an enemy first action. I think the Elder Sign is fine. It's definitely not an Elder Sign I would build around because it's ultimately just an auto
Yep.
success or a +1, which is just like a number.
Yep.
But it's definitely no bad thing
Yeah.
either.
I've
I think.
We've
Oh,
only had
go
a
ahead.
few times where it got the auto success. Usually, it's just been a +1. But I
But that's
think
also
every
good.
it's funny because like I think the times that it has happened is when it was a grappling hook and you do the evade first,
Oh yeah,
and then you like do an investigate or something, right? And it's
yeah.
like, well, you're not taking the investigate if you're not passing already. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it seemed to be very rare that this would fire on like a treachery or
It
something like that.
it can help with succeed by X, and we will talk about disguise later. That can help it set it up a little bit as well.
Yeah.
I think the thing about that I love about Kamani, you talked about lessons learned with Vincent. I think Kamani is also a beautiful example of an investigator design that's not very like overly complicated. Like you can explain to somebody what this does, and they can probably pick it up pretty quickly. It's not a very super like nuanced ability,
Mm-hmm.
but it plays into a lot of different rogue playstyles that you don't, or that I like didn't associate with it right away. Like the fact that this is a succeed by X test does actually matter, and the fact that you get your plus intellect there means that you are much more likely to succeed by X, and so you can put a bunch of succeed by X effects into Kamani, and then
Go nuts.
get a bunch of benefits. Yeah, and evasion based. Please don't forget to put pickpocketing in your deck. Don't be like me. Play pickpocketing. Like I'm guilty of that one.
Speaking of
Um,
pickpocketing, though, Kaimani does come with that bonus 5 XP, right? And so
oh
you
yeah.
can, if you want to, you can get pickpocketing 2 right away, and that is like
Mhm.
pickpocketing 2 is such a ridiculously good card. If you're
I think I've
already
taken.
doing 2 evades per turn, it's like how often are you not going to be succeeding by 2? You need to succeed by 2 to defeat someone with 2 health
Yeah,
left. So
yeah, yeah. I think I'm guilty of taking Carol's Obel every time, but the other 3 XP is a lot of fun. So I do actually want to quickly mention that. So deck building, deck size of 30, rogue cards 0 to 5, tool cards 0 to 4, neutral cards 0 to 5. I think this is closer to Winifred's deck building than like I don't know who's an investigator who actually gets a lot, like Father Mateo, I guess. Um, my experience has been that I put basically no tool cards in Kamani. I know there's a couple in this expansion that are probably reasonable with them, but I just found it. I want to use the like core rogue playstyle with them, and I don't need weird tools to like help me with stuff. I just want to be good at the things I'm good at.
yep,
And that combined with the fact that this front ability doesn't do anything if there's no enemies and isn't actually that good if you're like trying to deal with a enemy you could have just shot, right? Like I've seen some people complain that like the 5 XP is overpowered or like they don't need it because like they're already really good. And I'm like,
I've
they're from
I've seen what happens when you don't use your 5 XP towards helping you evade stuff with Kaimani, and it's not
yeah,
pretty.
yeah,
I'm not of the opinion that it's like 100% necessary, but I can absolutely see how that might have come about as a means of balance during playtesting.
I think it's much better. Like I think the card is, and the investigator is in a better place having the 5 XP than not having the 5 XP, because I'd rather them be very playable and exciting than be kind of under the thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
Hemhole. No, absolutely. You're welcome. Hi.
oh, hey, Ham.
Welcome.
How's it going,
And
buddy? That's one of my friends that was helping me set up with the stream last night.
okay. Yeah, okay. It's that's great. In that case, I want to do supportive chat. I'll just talk to you directly. If you're a friend of Bradley, then I don't have to like. Uh, welcome. You absolutely don't have to drag you for jumping into what is two nerds who are very deep into the game, talking about the game and like abstract concepts that are not explained on the card. Like we are going in assuming you know what these cards are and
And might
talking
have
about it
already
like
seen them, too.
yeah.
So for grappling hook, I like grappling hook a lot. It seems
Yeah.
pretty good. Playing it is very helpful. Sometimes it's really awkward to use though, where like
Yeah.
you want to do an investigate with your agility, but you don't need to do an evade or an engage, and you
Yeah.
kind of maybe don't even want to do a move, and it's like crap. Okay.
My experience with grappling hook has been that if you want to go the grappling hook, like I think again we just talked about signatures that take up slots. Grappling hook falls into that category. I think it's a really powerful card, but I think something like Leo De Luca is definitely up there as like a requirement if you want to get that extra action. Because like spending most of your turn grappling hooking means you're going to be doing the same things a lot.
Yes. Yes.
The one thing that I want to quickly mention is keep in mind that if you do all three basic actions, you have taken 4 actions that turn, assuming
Yep.
you hadn't done anything else, because the double action to activate this counts as a single action for the purposes of the rules, like counting how many actions you've taken, and it matters for a couple of cards in the set how many actions you've taken this turn.
Oh
Grappling hook,
yeah.
it's kind of funny. Again, like Kaimani doesn't really have like extra actions printed on their card, but grappling hook, in addition to being an agility replacer for intellect, is also an extra action supporter. So if you want to go that archetype, you can also do that.
Yeah. It's
Also,
really
borrowed timing Kaimani is actually very fun because it helps with the double evade as well.
Yeah. It just occurred to me. You spend an action to activate grappling hook, and then you take 3 actions. So for 2 actions, you've effectively performed 4 actions. Is that kind of
Yeah.
that's kind of cool? I never thought about that in the terms of payday. Ooh.
Yeah, payday or calculated risk. We'll talk about that one, and
Yeah.
that's kind of also how I think a couple of the intellect-based things that Kamani can do work
Yep.
because you need a big boost because they only have 2 intellect and they only have two combat. We're gonna get a great card to help with that last one, and then finally Agent Fletcher,
Put.
2/3/3. Oh
I was just gonna say put backstab in your deck.
yeah, oh
Just put backstab in your deck.
yeah. Put backstab in there. Yeah, it's a good card. If you can get backstab 3, it's even better because you can backstab him, and he's only got 3 fight or 2 fights, so you just kill. Yeah, there's some text about here about reducing your intellect value to 0, but like, yeah, backstab's a pretty good
To,
card.
to be fair, like he does have 3 and 3 there, and so
Yeah.
if you're trying to defeat him with this, you're at 5 against 6 if you haven't done any
Right.
damage to him.
Yeah, I get 6, and also he does have alerts. Like, don't underestimate if you've played like he's not nearly as bad as the Hoods for Rita.
Yep.
But
But he's still kinda
definitely still kind of nasty. My favorite with this, and it's been kind of a semi-recurring joke in our Cyclopean Foundations run, is that Kamani is really good at killing Munohoi's weakness, which is a custom investigator. Don't worry if you don't know that one. It's a special investigator Shaheen made. And Shaheen's character and the Eagle is very good at killing Agent Fletcher. So we've just been having this Eagle absolutely tear this agent to pieces. It's been great. It's just like, well,
Yeah.
I was about to catch this this criminal Jones, but then this eagle just flew at me and like attacked me, and now I'm now I don't know what to do anymore. So yeah, Kamani's fantastic. They can go so many different directions. I've done already a bunch of archetypes. I do actually think that my Kamani Deep Dive video is like one of the better videos I've ever made. So definitely worth checking that out if you haven't. It's like half an hour going on to like 4 different deck archetypes. Thank you.
Amina, Sedane.
Yeah. Let's get wild. 3333 stat line. Chosen and cursed. When you play an asset, reduce its research cost by 3 and it enters play with a doom on it. Limit once per round. Elder Sign effect +2. You may move all doom from a card at your location to another card at your location. I haven't seen this one yet. I want to see this so badly.
Yeah,
It seems so much fun.
Amina's the character that I'm the most excited to play because You
I
read that Elder Sign effect, and it's like from a card at your location to another card at your location? Like,
yeah,
so if you're playing TFA, you can just move all of the Doom off a location onto an enemy and then kill that enemy and discard all of that Doom? What?
sure can. Yeah.
So I think if Amina's playing on a team, on like a blessed team that can hand her Elder Signs, that's
Mm.
probably insane, right?
Yeah, you can
Seal
even
the
get
Elder
the
Sign. Yep.
yeah. So the other sign, yeah.
Yep.
The other thing that I'm thinking about, this one's less relevant because that's not usually the part of the scenario where people get hung up about. But in the secret name, the final objective is to get the all the doom from one of these enemies, and it's just like, yeah, okay, Elder Sign,
Yeah.
done.
Yep. Oh no, I love that. I love that. That's good. So she's also got the 5/9, but that's a
Yeah.
mystic sticking point, right? So I'm excited
Mhm.
for her. She's got the 0 to 4 charms in addition to 0 to 5 mystic.
Yeah, I'm glad she doesn't have any kind of restrictions because there were some people who were like curious if you're gonna get like no spells or something.
Yeah,
Glad that's not the
yeah,
case.
yeah. Me too.
I so Amina and the Doom cards in this set I really like them from like a mechanic or from like a thematic standpoint because it feels like what Mystics should be doing. They should be messing with forces beyond your
Yes,
control,
yes,
right?
yeah,
It's not just you take a horror because you threw a skull token on your shriveling. No, you're putting a Doom on the table, and if you don't clear that Doom, you are getting an you've basically
yeah,
played Ancient Evils for the encounter
yeah.
deck. It's great.
Exactly. And I think that like a lot of people have said this many times. I know I've had this conversation with Motux, who used to run a blog for the game. But I know he's been saying for ages, like, where are all the mystic effects like drawn to the flame? Like,
Mhm.
where are those? And like, I think this is it, right? Putting Doom on your assets is that. It's just a different form of that.
Yeah,
Um, and I
it's
don't know if you've
risk
played
taking.
much of the Marvel card game. Have you
I
played
have, yeah.
Marvel Champions? Yeah. So the way it works with encounter cards is you like deal them out in front of you, and then during the equivalent of the Mythos phase, you then flip them up. And if you have more than one, you just have to keep flipping them, right?
Mhm.
And I've always wished that since I've played Marvel, I've wished that Arkham had something like that, so that you could get more of those mechanics, of those effects.
Yeah.
But I think it wouldn't work in Arkham just from the how much more severe an enemy is. Because if you did that and
Yeah,
then pulled like 3 enemies, you just instantly lose, right?
yeah.
So I understand why it isn't that way, but it would be cool if there was
And
more.
it's not like, and to be clear, it's not that I don't like the existing Mystic cards. It's just that from a thematic point of view, I've always, or like, I very much relate to the idea that Mystic cards should be about risk taking. And it feels like sometimes a Rogue is actually a bit more of the risk taking because they're like the showing off, but they also want to succeed by two and they're taking risks there. And it feels like Mystics should really just be messing with big things. They should be taking big risks. And
Yeah,
Doom play feels like that big risk.
yeah.
I mean, it also has two signatures. Can you read Word of Woe and Word of Weal?
Yeah, so Word of Woe is a 2 cost event where you fast play only during your turn. Place a Doom on an asset you control to resolve a activate ability on it, ignoring all costs, including its activate cost, action cost. Then, if Word of Wheel is in your discard, you may shuffle it into your deck. And then Word of Wheel is the 0 cost event. Fast when you perform a skill test on an asset with one more Doom on it. Add willpower to your skill value for this test. Then, if Word of Woe is in your discard pile, you may shuffle it into your deck. So those
Yeah.
are like that kind of. I don't know if I'm hesitant to bring up homebrew cards, but if anyone's played Pat's Blue HG, who's playing Cyclopean Foundations with you, he has an alternate gym that has 2 effects that are like this, where
Yeah.
one of them like forces a skull, and then the other one is like when you reveal a skull, do something, and they shuffle each other back into the deck.
Do they shuffle each other back in or do they shuffle themselves back in?
Oh no, you're right. They shuffle themselves back in if you have more
Yeah.
than 5 cards left. Yeah, no, that's true. But anyways, these kind of remind me of that, and I really like these. I wish they had an icon,
I
but
was just about to
I
say
understand why
that.
they don't, right?
Yeah. I
But
think Word of Weal not having an icon is fine because it's free. I think Word of Woe is good because getting an extra action in Mystic especially is is like very valuable, but 2 cost is a reasonable chunk.
yeah, no, that's
And
fair.
having to place a Doom on an asset you control is also like just not something you can always do.
Yeah, in addition to the Doom you're probably already placing, right?
Yes, exactly. It is nice to play both of them, by the way, in the same like it goes from oh I'm like I can't do anything to haha taking
Yes.
care of
Yep.
it.
Yep. Yep.
And then Deafening Silence, which reads, search your set-aside cards for a copy of Ancient Evils and play it. Oh wait, no, that's not the actual text on the card. Oh, sorry. Move one Doom from an asset you control to the current agenda. This may cause the current agenda to advance. If no Doom is moved this way, shuffle Deafening Silence back into your deck.
Yeah.
I believe the flavor text says something like, yes, I can hear you, Amina, which is fantastic. This
Yeah.
was actually it's scribbly, but it's actually been translated.
Yeah.
Because Arkham fans are,
Insane.
special. Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. No, they're motivated.
Motivated, yeah, that's a good. Yeah.
I think so. The thing is that I don't know if this is still happening because Shaheen actually recently mentioned he's going. He has some study-based things which are very important. So like I don't know if he'll still be able to play with us in the near future. But he was really excited about Amina, and I was sitting there at the same time being like really excited to see that happen and dreading it a little bit because Shaheen is not the kind of person that I fully trust with having this kind of power where it's just like. We can have one more Doom. We can have one more Doom. Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. No, it's definitely fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were a little negative about this. I think the shuffling is actually pretty nasty.
Yeah.
But I think this is kind of comparable to Agnes's signature weakness. And for me, I think that Agnes's signature weakness is fine because of how much extra damage she dishes out. She's just so efficient. Yeah. So losing the turn isn't hugely damaging. And I think the similar thing is going to be said for Amina when all's said and done because you basically get like emergency caches, and this is just like you have an extra Ancient Evils guaranteed instead of one that you can dish out or like near guaranteed. For me, I feel like I would rather this move a Doom than waste a whole bunch of card draw, which is probably crazy to say, but I just feel like the acceleration you get on Amina will outweigh it.
I'm with you there. One of the things, and we really can't get into this because we have a massive stack of cards still to get through, but I think people and maybe this is me playing too much lower player count and not playing a lot of high player count, but I think people overvalue Ancient Evils massively. It's often, I think, one of the least impactful encounter cards in the deck. Yeah. It's, to be fair, it is game warping when it is the worst card in the encounter deck, so I understand why people are scared of it. Mm-hmm. But remember that the Doom only matters if you actually advance, and usually it only matters if you advance the last agenda.
Yeah. So
a lot of the time, an early Ancient Evils is actually just one encounter card that you didn't have to draw that turn, which means you had more chance to make progress.
Yeah, exactly. And like I get it in like Untamed Wilds and other scenarios that have also mysterious chantings and stuff like that. But generally speaking,
the Moon's
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're right. But generally speaking, like, when I'm playing solo or two-handed, if I draw an Ancient Evils, I'm like, oh, sweet, I didn't have a Treachery that I have to waste a bunch of actions on. It's like, I lost actions that I have available for the duration of the scenario, but I don't need to spend those actions now. I spend them at the end to lose, right? And if I'm not on tempo to lose, then whatever. And I think there's only a couple of scenarios in solo and two-player where you will be on tempo to lose, like by default. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say Untamed Wilds and occasionally Essex. I would put into that category. And I'm sure there's more, but let's not get into it.
I think Unspeakable Oath, but that one doesn't have Ancient Evils. Anyway, yeah. Let's get on to the I would say the most powerful investigator in the box. Like.
Yep.
Just power level wise, Daryl Simmons.
Yeah, and I've been playing Daryl over on Philian's channel, twitch.tv/Philian.
Heck yeah.
And we just finished Cyclopean Foundations. He was playing Kaimani and I was playing Daryl. And Daryl is just like incredibly fun. So Daryl's the 0-5 survivor, 0-2 seeker that we've been waiting for. Everyone's known that for ages. It's probably the most obvious pick if you're aware of the Arkham Files investigators. He's got a 4-7-4-5 stat line. No, all right.
Mine is slightly misprinted that it says 2-5-2-3 instead. But
yeah, he's got a 2-5-2-3. He begins in play with the Kodak, which lets you accumulate evidence by discovering clues at locations where you placed evidence on the on enemies or treacheries that go there. And then he can spend evidence from assets he controls to reduce difficulty of tests by 2, limit once per test.
So it's actually better than what the joke you just made, because it's not just +2 to any test. It's
No,
actually
it's
make the difficulty lower.
exactly. So unless you're doing a whole bunch of 1 difficulty and 0 difficulty things, it's even better. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then his Elder Sign, which is insanely cracked. Like, it's probably one of the best Elder Signs in the game, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Is to place an evidence on an asset you control and get a +1. So you're probably passing whatever you're doing, and you're getting a -2 on another test, or souping up your camera or something like that. And yeah, no, that's been insane for me. I had the most uninspired deck I've ever played in Arkham.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, no, I know. I did a deep dive on Daryl as well, and I really had to be like, no, I'm gonna push this video to be about all the cool archetypes you can do, because I'm pretty sure that if you just put like 30 good Seeker and Survivor cards in here, that you're just going to win any campaign, but you're also just like playing on autopilot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I kind of was, but it wasn't
cucumber.
like, yeah, it wasn't. God, yeah, no, he's just nuts.
Yeah. Ruin
And ruined
film, his
film,
weakness.
yeah,
Yeah,
ruined film. The 4 evidence from cards you control. For each evidence you cannot remove, you take a horror. Um, this
I'm
one,
kind.
I have mixed
I'm.
feelings on it. It's like fine.
Mhm.
I feel like the worst time to draw it is like you've got a Hawkeye out, you've got an evidence on your Kodak, and you've got an evidence on your Hawkeye. You lose both those evidence, and you take 2 horror. I feel like that's been consistently the worst time for me to draw it.
Oh, my worst is when I actually have 4 evidence to lose. Like, I'm glad that they, for the sake of balancing the weakness, I'm glad that they decided to just force you to lose the evidence if you can, because otherwise it would always take 4 horror on this thing. Because you're
That's funny.
playing a survivor, you have so much soak. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing is that difficulty 0 is already like powerful, and with I think now the Shadowlight, that's the card, right? Shadowlight.
Yeah,
The
Shadow Light.
archetype's just so powerful. I think the nice thing about Daryl that I will say is I'm not usually a fan of like obviously super powerful investigators. This might be the exception because you can do really fun stuff with him as well.
Yeah, I agree. I like the 0 to 5 Survivor, 0 to 2 Seeker pool is something we've been waiting for a long time, and there's a lot to explore in that. So like even if even if you look at Daryl and you're like, yeah, this is busted, this is nuts, this is so good. There's still a lot to do with it that you might still find interesting. Um, yeah, but I just played the most basic deck and we crushed it. Like it was so good. Yeah, he's fun. I've enjoyed him a lot, and I'm going to keep enjoying him. He's probably going to be one of my favorite investigators.
I don't think I'm gonna say that because it doesn't really lean into the kind of playstyle that I enjoy, but I think he's gonna be very good. And I do like that he also has some team support because you can use the ability on other investigators to location.
Yes, that's really nice actually. And playing Daryl with Kaimani, that ended up actually being pretty helpful early on in the campaign, where it was like, oh, do you mind spending on evidence so that I can actually have really good margins on this over succeed? And it's like, oh yeah, absolutely. Or it's like, do you mind lowering the difficulty by 2 during this stealth evade, so it's got a -4 difficulty?
Yeah, or one that's been popping up quite a bit for our campaign is like, hey, can you nuke this week or this treachery real quick so that we don't have to worry about that? Because that's been like
Yep.
a couple of treacheries and cyclopean invitations, which are not okay,
Yep.
which I'm sure you also know.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah. All right,
Um,
finally we have Charlie, right?
who's this? I think I've seen this guy before. He's got quite a few faces, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Shout out. 1111 stat line. I do appreciate that the politician and the millionaire both just have no stats. That's it's kind of
Yeah.
funny. You have 3 additional ally slots, and then free trigger. I feel like I literally just recorded myself saying these exact words 2 days ago, and I was making the many days until Kane video.
Curious.
Free trigger ability during a skill test you are performing. Exhaust an ally asset you control. For this test, you get +1 skill value plus additional +1 for each skill icon that ally asset that matches this test type. Elder effect +3, ready an ally asset at your location, and fixed health, fixed sanity, which is basically infinite health and infinite sanity because you have 4 ally slots at the start of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's not a lot to say about Charlie that hasn't already been said. You kind of
Yeah.
mentioned this in your many faces of Charlie Kane video. Like, there's so many combinations you can do. It's like you have to be pretty hyper specific when you're talking about what you even want to do with Charlie.
Yeah.
Bonnie's nuts, right?
Yeah.
Two
Bunny's really
two
good.
double wild there, and after you exhaust her, you can ready another ally asset you control. So she just, once you get her out, you just have so many skill boosts available to you. And then Burden of Leadership doesn't say must, and so it's barely a weakness. Which
Yeah, I don't
is
know. So the thing is, so for people who don't know, burden of leadership. If you control no ally assets, you shuffle it back in. Otherwise, for each ally asset, you either exhaust it or deal it the direct damage and direct hover. The thing is that what you're saying is that because it doesn't say must, you're allowed to choose to exhaust allies that are already exhausted.
which is it's
Uh,
silly. It's silly, and I don't think I'm going to play it that way. But like that's what it says, and
I'm
that's
I'm still torn about it. The thing is that I assume this weakness will most often come up to you in upkeep, in which case it is still really a weakness because exhausting all your allies after you've just readied everything is like putting you down an entire round. The thing that I like about not having the must here means that if you're playing with some of the partners in Edge of the Earth, you don't just kill them instantly by drawing your weakness. Because if you draw, there's like two of them that have like one health or one sanity. So if you exhaust them and then you draw this, they just die.
yep.
Which I don't think should happen. So I think the lack of must is intentional. I have seen some people, like other people, saying that no, I'm not going to play it like that. Which fair enough, play how you want to play.
I mean,
I don't like. If
just
you're having
because the
fun with
must
it,
isn't, just because there's no must doesn't mean you can't choose a direct horror or a direct.
that's
horror.
also true. There's also just choices there. Yeah.
You can just do it.
So I don't. Have you played Charlie already?
No, I've not played them actually, and
Okay.
I've got some of the. So I have Rogue and Mystic for the many faces of Charlie Kane, and I have ideas for him, but I haven't had time to. I've been so busy lately. I haven't had a ton of time to play beyond my scheduled game with Filey in there on Monday nights,
Classic Arkham issues.
and so I haven't had a lot of experience with them. But I have a couple of decks built. Ready to go for the Rogue Mystic, and also I think originally I had a whole bunch of Seeker Survivor ones that I was looking at playing.
Yeah. So I have only played him a little bit, mostly for like testing for making the videos. But I have played alongside a Seeker Rogue Charlie in what's the name? Dark Matter,
Yep.
the sci-fi campaign. That was really fun. We were originally thinking that it was going to be a item-based build because Charles Ross is great, and also what's the other Joey the Rat. But that didn't really end up materializing. We just had a lot of really good cards in Charlie, and then we're just getting like massive intellect tests,
Yeah.
which turned out was still very good. Like
Yeah,
turns
no,
out that
big intellect is fine. Like that's super reasonable. Like, a lot of Seekers get by on that, right? Daryl is going to get
yeah,
by on that. Just having a huge
yeah.
intellect value a couple times a turn is going to
Big
be
brain
good.
gameplay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think, like I said, there's not much to be said about Charlie without getting into super hyper specifics. So let's move on to the player cards. The first one we got is Hunter's Armor, which is a customizable card we saw in the first release article, and I think this one's probably been analyzed to death. It's got that 2/2 4 cost, and then it's got all these different ways to spend XP. I think the big thing that most people are excited for is going to be Hex Drinker there.
Yep.
The rest of them are good, but Hex Drinker turning this card into a draw engine is just really strong.
Yes. The correct answer is indeed Hex Drinker. I don't want to like board a card down to just like that sentence because there is some fun stuff you can do with it. But I just think that like because Guardian doesn't have enough draw generally in their decks, and especially draw that like turn after turn, Hex Drinker is so important that it's hard for me to see this card as anything but a Hex Drinker enabler.
exactly.
At which point you can do some fun stuff with it. I also just think that like 4 cost for 4/4 soak is a lot of soak, and
Yep.
you can help stay alive with that.
Yep.
Moving on to the Runic Axe.
Yep.
So this one, it was also in the initial article, but I have to admit, I haven't like thought about it too much. I know other people have. Funny enough, this is actually a weapon that Vincent can take because one of the upgrades makes it a heal damage or heal hover.
Yep.
Caroline can't take it because,
So
all my homies hate it.
I've played the Runic Axe in Roland in a campaign that I was intentionally trying to test a couple of the spoilers out. It's Runic Axe, and he's also using fighting lessons, which we'll get into. But I started off with Saga, Into the Thick of It, making Saga,
Oh, interesting.
and it's nuts. It's extremely good, and I'm in 2-player. I'm a little worried it's too good. But not too worried it's too good. There's still obviously other stuff you can do, and the two hand slots is limiting.
Yeah.
And it's expensive to play, right? You know, and
Under the play.
yeah.
you can run out of charges, right? I mean, I guess with Saga you're less likely to run out of
Yeah,
charges,
and that's
but
what I found was once, like, starting with Saga on scenario 1, I basically, in a two-player game, just never ran out of charges unless
Mhm.
I auto-failed, like, 2 attacks in a row. And
one of
that
the things that
can
I
happen, but doesn't happen often.
one of the things that I noticed was where did I play it? Because I do remember playing. Oh, right, I was playing it in Sister Mary. Now I remember. Yeah, I put it
Hmm.
in Sister Mary because Down the Rabbit Hole works with customizable.
Yep.
Um, but one of the things that I definitely noticed is if you want to have like other effects that modify your charges, you're going to run out of charge very quickly. So you probably need that saga.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
All right, here comes the first customizable that we haven't seen. Well, I mean, we've both seen it, but like that wasn't previewed.
Yep.
Custom modifications. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's you attach it to a firearm. It's an event with a reaction when you reveal a non-fail chaos token while attacking with the attached asset. You can exhaust it to cancel that token and return it to the bag and reveal a new one. It's like an old friend in your grip. A lot of good upgrades for this. You've got the notch sight, which lets you get that blackjack effect. Extended stock is a bonus to attack. Counterbalance lets you turn it into a draw engine with other upgrade cards.
Yeah,
Leather.
I'm really excited about that one, or at
Yep.
least I was really excited about that one for Tony because he can take 0 to 1 Guardian events, and this is an event.
Oh,
And
that's a good point.
customizable is equal to half the number of boxes checked
Yep.
level, but I then realized that like most of the upgrades are still higher level, at least the ones
Yeah,
that you
that would
really
get
care
you
about, I
what?
think, are higher level.
Reliable and well maintained. Is
Well
that?
maintained, yeah, and I
Yeah.
think there might be like one other one, but you
Yeah.
can't get the blessing.
And
The
I don't think Tony hurts for card draw too badly.
That's fair. I
You
just
know,
like the idea of putting
I
some of
mean,
that like
I
stuff
I
into the
love
deck.
playing with the guns. So like
Mhm.
anything that lets me do that is interesting inherently.
I also love that this card, the extended magazine, I believe it was mistranslated here and there, which causes some infinite ammo issues. So it's after you spend ammo or place ammo using an event, but it's specifically only using an event, not
Yes.
just whenever ammo is spent from
Yes.
it, you get an ammo back, which is
Yes.
kind of nice.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is going to be the card that makes Warning Shot finally show up again. Because I like that
Maybe.
idea, but I've not really seen that in the
No,
wild.
I bet a gunslinger using this in like TFA could like warning shot to send like pit vipers and other guys with vengeance away. That would work.
Yeah.
And then the quicksilver bullets is like the real.
Shotgun.
Yeah, here's your shotgun effect. You get some bonus damage. This is the thing for if you need a big heavy hitting upgrade for your weapon. So I think I like custom modifications. It's expensive, but I think it does
Yeah,
what a lot of the other upgrades do, which is like make your weapon better at a pretty high expense.
I like this. I like this more than a Guardian customizable firearm. I would have liked to see a customizable rogue firearm, but we didn't get one.
Yeah,
But I also don't dislike the ones that we did get, and we only got three, so fair.
yeah,
I am worried about that 3 cost. Guardians
yeah.
don't
That's
really have a good way of
That's
discounting
fair,
that.
and I think that we kind of glossed over the leather grip here. Makes it fast and cost
Oh
minus
yeah,
one.
maximum cost. Yeah,
So there
that
is
helps a
that.
lot. Yeah.
If you know if that's a big problem, but I agree that is definitely a consideration that it's expensive.
Next up, Obsidian Bracelets.
Yep.
Item Charm Traded. Amina can take this and might actually be relevant because it is a 3 cost asset.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 3/3 soak, but you can only assign damage and horror from treachery effects. But it can also soak for anyone else at your location, and it takes up a hand slot, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward. Um, I
It's
think it'll
awkward, but in a
be
way that I really like. Like it's an interesting design. A really
yeah.
cool trade.
I think that Carson can hold on to this just because it's going to
Yeah.
protect him a lot against the treacheries he's not going to pass. And I
Mhm.
think that if you're doing like a bandolier Tommy thing, like when I play Tommy, I play with survival knives and a gun.
Mhm.
And I think these could easily take the places of like the survival knives in that
Mhm.
as just like a big
Yeah.
ammo reload once in a while, or a
Exactly.
bunch of money. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I've actually been planning for that blessed Carson deck is I'm going to put the bracelet in at level 0
Yeah.
and then upgrade into the Hunter's Armor once I've got some XP. Because I think Hunter's Armor at level 0 is pretty bad. 4 cost for 2/2 soak is not great.
Yeah.
But you can buy a customizable card by just spending the XP on the check sheet. So just start with whatever upgrade you want, and then,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we're right away into an event.
Yeah. Bolas. The event one cost you can evade with combat instead of agility. If you succeed and the enemy is non-elite, attach bolas to it. I like that this is if you succeed and the enemy is non-elite, it doesn't prevent you from using it as an evade against an elite enemy.
Oh, good point. I haven't actually
Yeah,
realized
which is
that.
nice. I hate when events have that, like banish. You can only use it on a non-elite. It's like, can I just please evade with my willpower? But the attached enemy gets -1 evade, and then forced after the attached enemy moves, you exhaust it. So this is like, it's useful, but it's kind of weird too, right?
I wish this was a tool so bad. I would put this in Kaimani so fast.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it, it,
It's real neat.
it interacts very strangely with Hunter, where like they move, engage you, and then they exhaust. So they don't attack you that turn, but they will be engaged with you. Which could maybe possibly be really annoying in like Innsmouth. Like, don't.
It's it's really funny with night cons. I just realized
Yeah.
if you can pass the first evade, because they have a 0 evasion because they have 1 evade
Yeah,
normally.
they have one. You're right.
So they just trample after you.
Yeah.
In general, I like this. I think the thing is that this is the kind of card that I really like, and I'm probably never going to see in play because it's just like a slots issue. But I like the design of it a lot, and it's one of the reasons why I really like the campaign play along that I do.
Yeah.
Because it just let these cards see the light. And I am also doing a spreadsheet now with all the cards in it, and like the cards I've never played. So this one's on the list as cards that I need to play sometime.
Yeah.
Let's hope nobody breaches the door right now because we're recording and that would get really awkward. It's an insight tactic police traded. It's an insight. You can put it in Joe's Hunch deck.
Nice.
It's 2 cost events, intellect, combat icons. You test combat 1. If you succeed, attach breach the door to location with 1 resource on it for each point you succeeded by as leads. Reduce attached location shroud by 1 for each lead on breach the door. Let's see those hands. I really like this card for... So the problem is I really want to like this as a solo way for Guardians to get clues at a high shroud location. Except the problem is that I don't think you're going to have a lot of clues at a single location in solo.
Yeah.
So then I like it a lot more in multiplayer, but then I'm not sure if the Guardian like needs the help with investigating.
I think so.
I do
so
like
I
it.
think the thing that this lets you do is spend an action on your turn to make it so that the other people who can investigate are getting them way easier, right?
Yeah. It's more of a support card.
Yeah, it's more of a support card. But like, you know, in a 3-player game, say you've got Mark with you. You give a 3-player game. Oh, we didn't draw any enemies this turn? All right, well, he can throw breach the door down on like a 4-shroud location, crush it, and have the other 2 people just go nuts on it, right? I think that's
is also
where it shines.
Hilariously that you can breach the door in the Arctic. Because the first look, like because I've been playing as the Earth recently, the locations that I'm thinking of are those like 3 shroud locations in the first scenario, the 3 clues per investigate locations that you want to like clear out because they're the high shelter ones, and it's just like, yeah, let's kick in the door, and it's like, why are we kicking in the door? This is an abandoned camp.
Yeah.
Next up is a card that I think is better than a lot of people are giving it credit for.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the card is good. I just think it is better than people are giving it credit for.
I definitely agree with that. I agree with that big time.
So 1 cost event. It is also fast, importantly, and it has 2 combat icons. Like there's a lot of small things making this card better than it seems.
Exactly.
Play after you successfully attack a non-elite enemy using a melee asset. Attach cruisers 1 to the attached enemy. At the end of the round, deal damage to the attached enemy. This is gonna hurt. So it only works on non-elites, which I think is the big hit against this card. Because if it worked against elites, the card would have been great.
Yeah. And I can
Yeah,
kind
I
of
still
see why
think-
it has that restriction. Like,
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
But
it's reasonable.
skids, right?
Skids,
This is a
yeah.
skids card.
Yeah, it's a skits
You
card.
you evade them. You hit them with your switchblade. Even if you can't get the succeed by 2, you still get to attach this thing.
Yes, exactly.
And then you just run away and leave them to bleed out. Like I'm just thinking Carcosa. There's like those 4 health enemies that are just absolutely obnoxious.
Yeah, and they hunt after you, and it's like, all right, well now every time they move, they're going to take a damage. If you can stay ahead of them long enough, you don't have to deal with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
That's
like
usually
this
a good
wound. I think it's good. I think it's, it isn't an auto include, but
No.
like it definitely is. I think a little bit better than people are giving it credit. I like the double icons. There's a surprising lack of double combat icons in Guardian. There's like I'll see you in hell.
Right, yeah. Which is,
Is that it? Is that
really-
it?
I
It's the only
don't,
one
I
I
don't
can think
know.
of.
I'm not going to try to think of them right now.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of double intellect icons, which is always really nice.
Yeah.
The thing is that in general, I've been looking at like making skids happen, and make skids great again, for the last like 2 sets, and I think that he got a lot more again than people gave him credit for in Edge of the Earth because his broad deck building means that he can get a lot of multi-class cards as well.
Yes. Yep.
But I
And
still think that there's more to explore with Skates. And I think an evasion based, like there's a lot of evasion based stuff in the stat. Grievous Wound is an evasion based card. Like it doesn't say it on the card, but if you want this card to be good, because
Yep.
it does damage at the end of the round, so it doesn't work
Yeah.
if you're.
No, I agree. I think it's
Yellow.
a very good point to say that it is an evasion based card.
Or you have to be the yellow. Then if you like getting punched in the face, then you also might like this card.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
even like one cost fast. Sorry, I know we're going all way too low for this card, but
That's okay.
I really want to be excited. One cost fast, deal with damage to an enemy.
Yep.
It's basically like one cost Vicious Blow, right? A friend of mine who plays a lot of solos, like it's another copy of Vicious Blow for me, and I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And Danielle, I think, is just a Vicious
Well,
Blow.
and especially in solo, it's like not wasting it on a skill. Like if you commit Vicious Blow to a skill test and fail in solo against like a 3 health enemy, it's like crap.
Oh, yeah.
That's not just an action wasted. That's a card wasted, and I still have to deal with this guy. And I can't kill him in one action. Now I got to kill him in 2 actions. It's like that's my whole turn for an enemy. Whereas this is like you don't need to use it until you hit, right? Which I think there's value in that.
I love that this is like the card we've gone into the deepest for.
Yeah, it's hilarious, but whatever.
Also deserves it. Yeah. Okay.
I think it does deserve it. I think it does deserve it.
Next is Uncage the Friend.
Yeah.
Which is this is a new staple, right? I
Yeah.
haven't seen people react to it like that, but I feel like this is just an auto to
I
in
think
every deck.
so. When I first saw it, I was like, "Oh yeah, no, this just goes in every deck. They can take it."
Yeah.
But I see like I'm building decks, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, no shit, I have 1 ally. I don't include Uncage the Soul if I have 4 spells. So why would I include this if I have
maybe
1
you
ally?
don't.
No, I don't, because I'm greedy.
Okay, fair.
Uh,
Okay, so the fact that you can, so first of all, it's a parlay. Does it provoke text opportunity?
Yep.
Secondly, it's just like 0 cost, no action, essentially giving you the play action for free, and 3 cost reduction is a good amount of economy. Like we've seen that with Engage the Soul, and the fact that it also works on teammates makes me like, especially in 3-player, like I don't really see ever cutting this card. Calvin loves it. It's a spirit rated. Don't forget that.
Yep. I think.
And I usually play like 3 allies in most decks.
Yeah.
To be clear, 3 allies total, which is usually 2 copies of 1 ally and then 1 copy of a med student. Is it usually how it works out?
Yep.
There's a medical student really good.
Yeah, medical student is good. I think that the fact that this can be shared to your team, though, where I play mostly solo and 2-player, I think I'm a little cooler on this, but it's very obviously strong as hell in 4-player.
Mm.
Like this is saving someone else an action and 3 resources. Like this is just handing someone an action and an emergency cash to play their allies with. So it's just good. It's just good.
Yeah. And like allies best card type in the game, basically.
Yeah, allies one of the best slots. So
for this next card, do you have the Doom soundtrack queued up?
Just put in that Doom music.
Or like Wolfenstein, I don't know. Like it's great art, but like it really does feel like that way.
Yeah. It was funny during the reveal. Oh shit, who did this? Was it Tango and Plan or was it?
I think it was Tango and Plan.
Yeah, it's Tango and Plan. The second that
Gotta look
they
that up.
showed the art, because they showed the art first, and I was like, oh my god! I was like, I think that's a Rob Lasky piece, and sure enough, it was. I don't know what it is about this guy's art style, but it just like it pops out of the page so much to me. The second I see it, I'm like, oh, that's Rob Lasky for sure. He must be.
I did not know that. To be fair, I don't usually pay attention to the. Yeah, it was Tango and Plan.
Yeah.
Grab this spreadsheet real quick. I don't pay that much attention to artists. I probably should, but like, yeah, it's just fantastic art. I really love like it or GoldenEye. Like, there's a lot of. It really evokes that like '90s era video games style to me, which I really like.
Yeah.
I like this as a. Yeah, I think it's reasonable. I actually built a deck around this. Shotgun Mark. Really fun.
Yep.
I think it's fine. I think it's like extra ammo's smaller cousin, like or brother. It's like if this is the level 0 card you replace with extra ammo when you get stick to the plan.
Yep.
But it's also just like fine. Getting +3 skill. The weird thing is you get an ammo after you spend your last bullet, but you then get 1 bullet and an extra +3 that you have to use that round. So it's like. The timing on getting all the benefits from this card is a little odd.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I like it as Guardian Lucky.
Yeah. Yep. No, that makes sense. And I to be honest with you, like I know people were kind of cool on this. They're like, how come this doesn't draw a card? I'm like, yeah, well, it's a level 1 card. It's a level 0 card, so it shouldn't.
They shouldn't draw a card. No.
Yeah, they shouldn't draw a card. But I just think that one cost fast to add an extra ammo is fine. Like if that's your worst
Yeah.
case scenario, if it's like I didn't get to do my extra attack with +3 skill value, it's like whatever. It's level 0. You don't have to. You don't have to spend an action and 2 resources and an XP to get 3 ammo. You can just be like, all right, get. I need to shoot next round probably, so let's just put an ammo on it and be safe. So I think it's good.
Have guns in your deck. Don't play this card with
Have
zero
guns,
firearms.
don't not have guns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a joke, but also recently, like melee weapons have been very good, and firearms have been a little under the curve. So important to keep in mind.
Yeah. Fighting lessons. I know a lot of people were really cool on this as well. It's the combat agility wild. Commit
I am
only
one
to a
of
skill.
many people.
Commit only to a skill test during an attack or evasion. You may commit this to an investigator at any location. So I think in my play, I've done that Roland and Finn game. I think that this needs like a Guardian and Rogue setup. If you have a Guardian and you have a Rogue on your team that usually is dealing with things through evasion, but occasionally needs help with combat, especially with someone self-sufficient like Finn and Roland, right? They can just split up and then I'm not worried about Finn, and Roland kills anything with the Runic Axe. So I think this is like fine. It's not great. It's like okay. But it's going to be the worst card in your deck, and you're going to upgrade out of it. That's...
Yeah, okay, that's a lot fairer. That's a lot more rare with like thinking about it. Because so the problem to me is that this card is competing for its slot with Daring, which is like that's the card that I think of when I'm thinking about cards that I can commit during attacks or evasion attempts in Guardian level 0 with 3 icons on them. And that card has 3 wild icons. It has a little bit of a drawback that doesn't usually come up, and it draws you a card. And I love cantrips on skills because just drawing through your deck so fast is so nice. And this doesn't cantrip. That's the main thing about this card. It's like if this drew a card, then I'd be all over it, but it doesn't. So
and I definitely was like when I was editing my footage, I was like, how many times did I commit this to Finn? And I was at the same location as him, and then a manual dexterity would have just been better.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't have both in Roland's deck, right? But there were like a couple of times when I used it, and he was like across the map, and I was like, yeah, I needed that to make that evade land, right? It was like like an alert enemy with 4 base evade or something.
Oh,
like that, right?
Yeah, fair.
So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, no, I needed that.
I also like that this game can have cards in it that are not perfect, or not like super powerful, but have their moments.
Yeah, and I think that's important.
Might be fine.
I think it's important for people with limited collections and people who just want to try out different stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of skill cards at level 0 that don't cantrip, we have Helping Hand, which is not a great trend for Guardian, to be fair. But this is, so it commits to any type of test, max 1 per cumulative test, and it doubles the icons of every other card you commit to it.
Yep.
My original review, I think, is still exactly the same as it is now, which is that there is exactly one place where I can see these cards fitting, which is in Silas, because it's innate, with the Survivor level 1 card from Dream Eaters, I want to say, which are like the Succeed by 2 skills that also get 3 icons, because in that situation, you both get 3 icons out of this, and you care about succeeding by a lot.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're probably either better off just putting Unexpected Courage in your deck, or putting another card that does something in your deck, because it's so easy for this card to just do... Like, if you're in a situation where this card is adding 5 skill icons, that's awesome. But guess what? You are already getting +5 from the other cards. You don't need this to add another +5.
I am in the exact same boat, and I have nothing to add. I don't have anything nice to say about that card. I'm not going to say anything at all.
Why don't... Actually, but I was going to say that I was going to go grab Glut Water while you talked about the next card, but I don't actually want to skip Bestow Resolve, because I think it's a super cool card. So why don't we finish the Guardian cards, and then we grab a glass of water, because I really do need to... I do need to drink a little.
Yep.
So tell us about Bestow Resolve.
Bestow Resolve is 4 charges, arcane slot, asset, 2 cost. It's a ritual, it's not a spell. And then as a free triggered ability during a skill test performed by an investigator at your location or a connecting location, important, spend a charge, commit a non-weakness card from your hand to that skill test, treating all of its skill icons as wilds.
This card is
good.
Speaking of, this card is wild.
Yeah, this card's good. Yeah, this card's wild. Yeah, no, this card's really good. I'm excited to try this out on anyone that has multi-class access to like for instance, Carson could take like Eureka's and Inspiring Presences and just have a whole bunch of 3 wild icon cards that also do something good. I think this card is very strong to shore up the whole Guardian support archetype.
Mm-hmm. I also want to. The first thought that I had, which is completely useless because it's a bad idea, but still, this uses judges. Akachi can take this. I don't know. I don't think that helps, but sure.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they clarified recently that using abilities to commit cards to another investigator is in addition to like the normal committed card to somebody else. So you don't have to so if somebody else is at your location, you can actually just commit one card normally and then one card with the bestow resolve.
Yep.
So you can actually commit two. And something that somebody just said and that stuck with me is like this turns all of your perceptions into also being overpowers, manual dexterities, and guts. And so I could even just see putting this into a deck with all four of those. Yep. And they're basically unexpected courages that also draw you a card with this.
Yep.
I think this card's just super fun. I can't wait. This is one of the cards that I haven't played yet that I really want to play.
Yeah. All right, go have a drink. I'm going to read Field
No,
Agent.
we're finishing the Guardian cards, because the rest of the cards I think we can get through pretty quickly. Because the next two are Field Agent and Guard Dog, which are both great.
Yeah.
Field Agent, previewed by Run to the Flame. I haven't been shouting out all the previewers.
That's
but,
okay.
Yeah. +1 intellect is actually surprisingly relevant, I think, in Guardian. And this was also in that Mark Shotgun deck.
Yep.
Turns out that hit and running this card is actually just perfectly reasonable as a way to turn your hit and run into a winging it. Or sorry, not winging it, working range.
Yep.
If you have any way of boosting the sanity on this thing or healing its horror repeatedly, this gets a lot of clues very fast. 4 cost is a lot, but you knew that already. You're playing Guardian.
Yep.
Play motivational speech and get it out there.
Yeah, I think Field Agent's really good. I don't have a whole lot more to say than that. And to be honest with you, I might just say the same thing about Guard Dog. It gets an extra health. It gets this neat engage an enemy and then they attack you thing. And then the trigger can also be used when horror is assigned to him. Yep. And also it's got the updated art from the core set, which I think is better art. I like the original Guard Dog, but now that I'm seeing this in front of me, I'm like, no, this is just better.
Give me a second. We can do comparison.
Oh yeah, sure. I do like the original Guard Dog, but this dog's so cute. Look at him. He's got his teeth there. He's got his little teethers, and he's biting the hell out of that tentacle, which almost looks detached from whatever is grabbing him. But, anyways, yeah, Guard Dog's pretty good. It was designed by the Council in Exile at Arkham Knights 2020, so we've been waiting on this one a little bit. But yeah, you can kind of see the Guard Dog, and it's funny because I think that the original Guard Dog, it suffers from that art scaling problem where you're taking an art that's actually let me see, can I get this on? You're taking an art that's this big, but you're putting it on a card that's this big, right? And so when you look at the eyes of the Guard Dog in the full art of the original one, it looks so detailed and good, and when you see it on the card, you're like, why is that dog's face so fucked up? What's wrong with it?
I actually have the beta Guard Dog because it was a beta card. I actually helped, I don't want to say I helped design this because I was just in Twitch at the time, but I was in chat at the time, and I did actually push for, I think one of the questions was which card do we want to do, and I pushed kind of hard towards Guard Dog because I felt that was a fun card to do, and I've actually seen this in play a long time ago in somebody's Leo deck. We were playing 4-player TCU, and this card, that was a really fun deck because that deck didn't play any weapons that dealt more than 2 damage, and just made it up with Guard Dogs, Survival Knives, because this with Survival Knives is crazy good, by the way.
Yep.
Beat Cops, everything. This card's good. Play this card. It's really, I think Guard Dog's still one of the most underrated core set cards, because people are just Beat Cop, right, the core set ally. It's
Beat Cop, I think, is... Beat Cop's really good because that +1 does add up for Guardians over time, I think. Because they don't have as good a draw as other classes, the +1 actually does help them not need to commit as much. But the Guard Dog is just, it's free damage. It's free damage.
Yeah.
It's free damage. Upgraded handcuffs. It's the fast, 1 less cost. And then when you use it, you remove all the doom from the just evaded enemy.
Maxine is never going to live that down, is she?
Yeah.
It's so great.
I like this. I think this is going to be really cool for Parallel Roland. I played the Parallel Roland with the 3 directives that's fast cards, then the skill boosts, and then the one where you want to be engaged with guys, right?
Yep.
And have enemies at your locations. And I think that using 4 of my 5 starting XP on these would have just made that deck considerably better. So I'm excited to try that deck concept out again with this. I'm also excited to try it out on skids, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, I've also I have also played a similar deck to that. I didn't take the one that's fast cards. I played +3 sanity.
Yep.
But the thing that I do want to point out is I think there's not a lot of final scenarios that have humanoid enemies in them, and so the fact that it costs 2 XP makes me a little bit less likely to run this because I like my XP upgrades to be good in the finale. There
Yeah,
are a couple of campaigns that do have important humanoids in the finale. TFA, which have humanoids throughout basically the entire campaign, and
Innsmouth.
TCU as well. I
And
don't think Infinite have a lot of humanoids in the final, does it? A lot of those are monsters, I think.
I thought all of
I
the
don't
guys
know.
with the deep one trait were humanoids as well. Or I thought there was
Yeah,
like
but
enough. I thought there was enough.
okay. Well, yeah, sure. I think
I'm
those
not
are the
sure.
3 campaigns at least that you're going
Yeah,
to want to
yeah.
run
No,
this.
that's fair. Um,
I'll let you talk about this one
yeah,
because I don't
prepared for
want
the worst. It gets an extra icon on it, double 2 XP, zero cost. It does the exact same thing, but you choose an investigator at your location, and they can also play it if
Yeah,
they
they get a
can.
free play action.
So that's just a really good upgrade. If you were already taking prepared for the worst on your stick to the plan or whatever, you just get this.
And if you're like me, then you're just going to put it in the binder and not play it
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
no,
don't think it's good.
and some
I don't.
people, yeah, no, some people don't like this, right? Like personally,
No.
I tend to just run more weapons than have prepared for the
Yeah.
worst. But
And
if I've got a runic axe with 10 XP dumped into
yeah,
it, I might
that's
want
fair.
this to make sure I get it.
Yeah, the thing. So to be clear, because I'm being kind of salty, but for comedic effect partially, because I think it's a fine upgrade and it's good
Yeah,
design card. I don't like Search 9 on this. I think Search 9 is is like not deep enough. I've seen that whiff too many times to be like comfortable with it,
yeah,
and the fact that it didn't get a deeper search is what really would make me go, well, why do I want to pay 2 XP to make the to make me feel even worse when I whiff on this? Fortunately for me, the next card that we're going to talk about is a card that I'm super excited about and is in fact up there for one of the cards that I'm most excited about in the entire box, which is Martyr's Vambrace, previewed by Drawn to the Flame. Item Charm Armor makes a special ability that makes Daniela players very sad. But it also gives you +1 skill value while resolving revelation abilities on encounter cards, and then a reaction ability after another investigator location draws a non-peril encounter card. You can drag it over, and then it has randomly 2 damage and 2 horror soak, which was completely unnecessary. But they were like, "Well, this card isn't broken enough yet. Let's push it a little higher."
yeah. I really like this card.
I love this style of Guardian so much, and I'm glad that they get like this powerful of an effect for it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I think this is going to be really strong for if you're playing like 2 player with like a Guardian Seeker pair and the Seeker keeps getting the enemies. It's like, here's your engage action. Like, this is a riot whistle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, to be
also,
clear, it's not whenever they draw a treachery card. It's whenever they draw an encounter card. So it works on enemies. That's very important.
exactly, yeah. So I think if you're babysitting someone, this is going to be really good. It's extra health and sanity, and it also is giving you a bunch of bonuses to your revelation effects. So any Guardian that's got a halfway decent stat line, like, well, I
Yeah.
mean, they've all got 3 willpower, except for
Yeah, that's the
Carson.
thing.
So, you know,
Yeah, a lot of them have good willpower.
yeah.
Most of them have reasonable willpower, agility too. Like it's
Yep. No, they're not,
yeah.
very few of them have like absolute dump stats.
Mhm.
And like say you're Leo, it's like, yeah, but now I've got 5 willpower to make up for the
Yeah,
fact that my agility's dumpy. So
and intellect 4 if that matters,
yeah,
which a
exactly.
couple of campaigns it
Yeah,
does.
no, in a couple it does. You're right. So I think this is really good.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something,
I
but I
did also
lost my
love
train of
this.
thought.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I lost my train of thought. So
Charm.
charm.
Amina could take this.
Yep. Yep.
I
It's just
don't
got
think
the
she
three even stat
does.
line. Oh, what I was gonna say was, have you played much with Tooth of Estli?
I have not, but I've played a lot with First Watch, and that's the card that makes me really excited for this card
Yeah.
because like
Fair
First
enough.
Watch, but every turn, but only one,
Yeah.
or let me handle this, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Girish.
yeah.
3 health,
Also
3
previewed by
sanity.
Tango Plan.
Yes. Yep. 4 cost. He's got that ally slot. He's got that willpower and wild. He can have damage or horror assigned to him from other investigators at your location, and then he gets this exhaust during a skill test to get +2 skill value, and then if it's successful, you heal a damage or a horror from him. This is a beautiful man. Um, Everything about this card is like exactly what I wanted to see in a big Guardian ally. I love the +2 skill value. It compares really favorably to like any asset that goes into play and exhausts once a turn to give you a skill value, I think. Um, I know a lot of people
Yeah,
are
and
like,
actually,
this is good, but I think that this is great.
yeah, I think I'm definitely on team. This is good, but maybe that's also because I haven't played it yet. I think it's It's a great support card. It's probably a reasonable Charlie card. It's definitely a reasonable Carson card. I just think it's hard. Like this is one of those cards where I think that it's. I don't know if it's ever gonna be like the standout super. Oh my god, this is the card that won us the campaign. And it's very hard for this card to ever do nothing because you just play this. It soaks for your team. It heals itself, and it gives everybody or like it gives people scat boost. Like
Yeah,
it's doing so much for you.
it's. Have they ever retcon removed a card for being too good? There's one card in the
Taboo list.
game, Double or Nothing, that if you play with the taboo list, you're not allowed to include it in your deck.
Yeah, so to be clear, taboo list is optional. That's the important thing to
Yeah,
specify.
it is
Taboo list is optional, but they have taboo list consists out of basically a bunch of erratas that are usually power level related, a bunch of XP taxes, so you have to pay more XP to get a card, or in a couple of cases pay less XP,
Yeah.
which one of which is really weird, but we really don't have time for that today. And one forbidden card at this point, which is double or nothing, which is mostly because it's hard
It's
to balance that card
yeah.
in
There's
any
too
sensible
much
way.
that goes into it. It can make
Yeah.
too big of combos that like just almost if you succeed on a Double or Nothing test with enough things put into it basically puts you into a you cannot lose
Yeah.
state, right? So yeah, that's why that one's on there.
And here's a card that I really did not see coming, but I'm really glad to see.
Yeah, I'm
Richmond.
stoked for this. This is nuts, right? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Zero cost still. One extra willpower icon, I believe. Original was just double
Yep.
intellect.
Yep.
Tactic, one at a time. Investigation location as a group may play up to 4 assets in total from their hands, reducing the resource cost of each by 1. So this is one more than the original Ever Vigilant,
And you can share this.
but you can also spread it around.
Yeah, this is.
I'm really curious to see if this is going to be 3 XP worth better.
I think that in a 4-player game, it absolutely is. I think in a 3-player game, you could justify it, and I think in 2 and solo, you basically don't touch this. That's sort of where I'm at with that. I'd be willing to be wrong on 2-player.
I think it's just really good. Like I think in 2-player maybe it's more of a late campaign buy, but one of the things that I really like that I stood by was like, okay, well, have you ever played Ever Vigilant and only played 2 assets because it's just what you had to do at that point? Well, now you don't have to ever do that again because when you do that, you also just give your teammate an extra Ever Vigilant, like an Ever Vigilant, basically. It's like this card's so good.
There's something I want to point out like really quickly with a couple of these cards here. Like take a look. Double icon, double icon, double icon, double icon, double icon, double icon, triple, doubles, double, triple, double. There's a lot of multi-icon stuff in this pack specifically that supports Bestow Resolve. If you can't play your Field Agent or any of these, you can commit them as double wilds or triple wilds, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's just going to be really cool to see in action. I'm so stoked to see that happen.
All right. Well, before we get to the magic sippy juice,
Yes.
let me grab a glass of water real
Yeah,
quick.
that sounds good.
See you in a minute, chat.
Oh. Trying to think if there's a whole lot I want to say about these that hasn't already been said. And I don't think so. Oh, 1 second. I just need to pop over on my computer and do a quick something.
Actually, clicking the unmute button is surprisingly difficult.
Oh, yeah, that does it. So I think for these 3, I don't have a whole ton to say.
You're
these
talking
all
about
previewed by people? These were all previewed by people.
these were all previewed.
Yeah.
Let me optimal play for the alchemical distillation. Reddit for empirical hypothesis and playing board games for Ravenclaw. Which also, I just want to give a big shout out to playing board games. I'd not heard of them before this preview season. Those are cool guys. They do cool stuff.
Oh man, they are so prolific. It is nuts. They have so much content. If you are into Arkham content on YouTube, you need to watch Playing Board Games. And Justin is also like just extremely entertaining. I don't know what it is about him. He's got an amazing energy when he plays the game. That is just infectious. And Travis and Bryn are fine. Yeah, they're good. They're good guys too.
Yeah, like generally.
So the distillation's pretty cool. I think I like that it can generate intellect tests for someone like Amanda. But the upgrades are pretty straightforward. I think that the last two are kind of tricky because they increase the difficulty, or increasing the difficulty and then succeed by stuff.
Yeah, they're also the reason I think why you want to take this card because
Yeah,
I think by itself the effects are kind of
yeah,
like they're not bad, but they're just fine.
yeah.
I don't really, I don't think I'd have much to say to this. I put this in my Vincent deck, trying to test it out, and I think I took it out immediately because I needed space for upgrades. And I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, no, I
yeah,
don't.
that's fair.
I, don't.
I
I
would,
did actually use it. It was
I
actually
would,
kind of good.
I would probably stick with at level 0. I would stick with this in 5 intellect people, and I wouldn't bother with it until I've got some other stuff going on in anyone with 4 intellect.
Okay.
Hypothesis accumulates evidence, so it's good.
It's so this card's broken. I think
Yeah,
so.
I think
Like
it's-
I don't like doing that. Like right when the although mine is slightly miscut. I think
Oh
these
no!
two are not like or not necessarily like it's not very noticeable. But I don't know if you can see on the camera that like the one
Oh
of them
yeah,
has
no, I see. It's
definitely been
it's
cut.
quite a lot higher cut. Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Like it's fine. But I think this is like so at its worst, I feel this is just a slotless Lucky Sedane case, which is the card that I think single-handedly changed how people perceive Rogue. So that's already a pretty high bar.
Yep.
And then if you ever get alternative hypothesis and like a couple of the other upgrades on there, this card's just. It's one of those cards that makes me go right. This is why we all bully Seeker for being too good sometimes because this card is just like there's a lot of words on this card that shouldn't be there, and there's also irrefutable proof, which I don't understand why that's there. It's like, yeah, let's spend 3 XP so we can then spend 3 evidence to discover one clue at a location when we could have just been using that to draw 3 cards. It's like the power balance there is completely out of whack. But I don't know. I don't want to get too negative. I like the card a lot as a like one of in Finn, for example.
Yeah.
Just losing one of his 5 off-class slots. We'll talk about Finn a bunch because I have a lot of ideas for Finn with some of these rogue cards as well. But I think I'm probably going to play the like 10 XP into a Miracle Hypothesis Ursula deck at least once just to get it out of my system and then never touch the card again outside of like shenanigans decks.
Yeah, no.
I think the card was good in card games as it turns out.
Yeah, cards are good in card games.
And even have economy on it. Like you can even, if you don't need more cards, you can just turn it into 3 resources.
Yeah, exactly. I think the clue one's kind of goofy, but at the same time, if you put enough work into it, you can generate like 3 evidence per turn across your team, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, no, we can, if clues are what we need, right? If we need clues more than we need card draw right now, then fine. And Raven's Quill, I think Raven's Quill is pretty cool.
I like this one the best out of these 3. I think it's a lot more.
I feel like it's the hardest one to internalize what it does because all it does innately is the XP thing.
Yeah,
and so
all
of these do something a little different. But I think that there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. I don't have any huge thoughts on what to do with it right now. I'm gonna have to play around and see.
If I can throw a couple at you.
Yeah, sure.
So in Parallel Daisy, I was using this with Old Book of Lore to not take up a hand slot because that deck had like 15 different cards that could take up a hand slot, I think, and that was a bit much. And then also had the ability, I don't know which one it is, Energy Step, where I could use to take secrets off of Shuffners to put on the Old Book of Lore because they're way more powerful there. Mm-hmm. And then I'm also looking at this for like some spell combos in Luke, maybe that could be funny. And I'm currently doing this in Vincent? Yeah, Vincent. I get getting names mixed up. On the Archive of Conduits.
Yep.
Because that's a tome at level 0.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So, moving on, dissection tools. This is Hawkeye folding camera, but for combat and agility. Mm-hmm. And enemies get
Which is weird in Seeker.
It's very weird in Seeker. It's very weird that it takes a hand slot. I have a hard time placing this. Aside from Daryl with Brute Force and Expeditious Retreat and Resourceful and True Survivors. That's the big thing I see
Oh, okay.
Do you see what I mean
I
there?
was also going. Yeah, I see what you mean. I was mostly so the thing is it's after an enemy at your location is defeated. So I was going less on the how can I defeat enemies and more on what can I actually do once I get the card. Which my answer was also Daryl, but my answer was Daryl in Dream Eaters because it notably doesn't exhaust and it isn't limited in any way. Because the Hawkeye folding camera is limited to once per location.
Yep.
The section tools doesn't have that kind of limit. So if you blow up a swarm enemy next to a Daryl who's
Oh
holding
my
this, they
god.
just get a bunch of evidence. Yeah, if you want to break the game,
Why does
like
clean sneak say non-swarm and this doesn't? Jesus.
yeah,
Ah.
at least there's only one campaign where that matters. Also,
That's
I
true.
completely misread Clean Sneak, and we'll get into that. I'm gonna have a confession to make for the YouTube peoples.
Yeah.
I thought it was way better than it actually is.
Yeah.
Good more cool card. I think we're gonna speed up a little, right? Because it's we've been for going for for
Oh
an
my
hour and a half,
god,
and
yeah,
we're
we'll
only in
probably speed up a
Seeker.
little bit.
Yeah.
Grimoire's nuts. Grimoire's good in, I think,
Is it?
literally,
Oh,
yes. Grimoire's insane.
oh,
Grimoire. Grim Memoir is probably the single best card printed in this pack. There, that's my hot take.
huh.
I think
Wow.
that
Okay.
card is
I
insane.
just
I think it's good on every Seeker.
okay. I thought it was mediocre in
No,
most Seekers outside of Daisy, but I haven't played with it
Daisy,
yet, so
really good in Daisy. Harvey draws an extra card out of it, and then everyone else just gets a +2. That is very helpful. Ursula can use her reaction on it. I think it's good. I think it's really good.
Research notes, maybe my favorite new archetype in this
Yeah,
expansion.
yeah,
That might not be true. We have some really good ones coming down in Rogue as well. But the ability to like get something out of dropping clues,
yeah,
really fun.
yeah.
I
We've
know
been
some
waiting for
people
this.
are
I think.
talking about this being overpowered, but I don't know. Like, if you're not using knowledge and power on this, I think you're probably fine because there's a lot of time spent dropping clues, picking up clues, doing all that stuff.
Yeah,
I think it's just really fun.
you need to have both. I think it kind
Yeah.
of is like it's good, and then once you've got both, it's quite good. But I don't think it
Mhm.
ever goes completely nuts because you're going to be
No.
faffing around doing nothing for the first half of the scenario.
Yeah.
And research librarians will get these for you, but like
Oh, right, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not too worried about that. The one person
No.
where it's probably a concern is Mandy, but like if you're searching, you might be drawing her weakness anyways, right?
Yeah, I'm mostly worried about Daryl, and I'm not that worried because Daryl could do a lot of broken
Oh,
stuff anyway.
I'm
So
not
like,
that worried about Daryl just because Daryl. Yeah, I guess that's the thing is like
exactly.
Daryl has so many different things he can do that I'm not worried
Yeah.
about that.
You take this
Consuming
out of
all
him and you just get something else. Bizarre Diagnosis, I think, is a campaign play along. You're playing Vincent with this card pool, and you have to have something to clear your weakness.
Yep.
Otherwise, spending dropping a clue is a big cost, I think. And healing three. The problem isn't that the amount of situations where healing 3 damage is good is kind of limited.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the fact that it has double intellect icons is kind of nice. I will say that.
I think it's neat that this can heal an ally because you could like fully heal
Yeah.
back that guard dog when it's got 4
Hmm.
damage on it. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that this has double intellect because that means that it can just go in the deck guilt free and be committed to an investigate. That's
Most allies don't survive having two
yeah,
damage. That's
exactly.
the
There's
problem.
very few that survive that.
Most memeable card in the
Yeah.
entire pack, I think. It's such a great amount. I
Rex
love it.
pogging, yeah.
Yes. Capturing Discovery, search top 6. You may place it with 3 clues your location. You can grab 2 cards for every clue you place. Card is fantastic. Couple of scenarios you don't care about your clues. This becomes hilariously good. It's just a 1 cost draw 6. Yes, you draw your weaknesses. Just draw. Don't.
draw
You're
them.
gonna draw them anyway.
Just draw them.
Draw them.
Just
now.
draw them now.
Yeah.
You've got 5
Um,
cards to deal with it. Just draw them now.
Have we got answered on how Mandy interacts with this, other than just giving you 3 additional cards to look at? Not right. Yeah,
I don't
right?
think there's an official answer, but I'm fairly
Yeah.
confident in my answer of you get 1 extra card if you drop a clue. Right. So
Okay,
you search
I-
the top.
that's-
Search the top. So it's either spend no clues for none, spend 1 clue for 3, 2 clues for 5, or 3 clues for 7, and you should have looked for more cards if you were
Yeah.
to drop 3 clues. I'm
I
fairly
think-
certain that's right
yeah.
because like there's a whole discussion on like what it means to be the target of the search, and I
Yeah.
think if anything is a target of a search in any sense, then this kind of has to be. And it's
Yeah.
weird, and I don't want to get into it, but I'm fairly certain
No,
that's what it is.
fair.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it came the other way either.
In general, I think if you're playing this on Mandy, and I haven't played Mandy in a while, and especially post Taboo, I think I should probably revisit her. You should just look at 3 more cards because I think that's just a better use of the card anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
I
it's-
agree.
Maybe it's-
Unless you're in a position where you just need like tons of icons in hand, or if you're like
Yeah,
dream enhancing
even then.
serum where you want to just like boost up your hand size for some hand size boosting thing. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Map the area. Super fun card.
Yeah, I think this
I
one's
haven't
cool.
played it yet. Yeah, I really want to try this.
Yeah, I think this is really cool for like the witching areas,
Yeah.
the witching hour, the witching area, the witching hour's last location. Um,
Oh, sorry. I
locations.
was I was thinking you were talking about the Doom thing. I'm like, how does this interact with Amina's ability in any way? No, you mean literally the DCU for scenario.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the witching area.
yeah,
Yeah,
drop it there. Yeah, yeah,
drop it there,
yeah.
and
Just
you
in
can do
general.
whichever is easier between killing her or
Yeah.
gathering the clues. Right.
Gathering close. I also I did we got this previewed really early. This was also played Bartcamp's one. Previous one I think was Miskatonic University Radio. I'm trying to shout out a couple of these people because I work with a lot of them for the Many Faces Journey and also I just like it.
Yeah.
But Map the Area, I think it's kind of funny how we saw this card and we really didn't know what that was going to mean for like the Investigation block. Turns out it was a Daryl card all along.
Yeah.
Although I don't even know if Daryl runs it. Like that's the other thing. It's like,
Yeah, it depends. I think it depends on how hard you're going to succeed by zero stuff, and we'll see that later.
Uh,
Yeah, analysis. Single wild. After revealing a chaos token for the skill test, you may place one of your clues in your location to cancel that token, return to the bag, and reveal a new one. You may do this any number of times. This is like hilarious with research notes, isn't it?
yeah, it is. It's also practiced. Importantly, that's not forget that.
Yeah.
So
So
Bart's made perfect for
I
this.
don't have a great feel of how this works, but when I play that deck, this is going in it, and I guess I'll report back on that.
I recently what made Practice Makes Perfect in that Vincent deck, and I decided not to take this and take another card that I've been very down on before, and it actually worked really well. It was the Plan of Action.
Yep.
Actually worked out pretty well, but I ended up going like, well, I don't have any clue dropping tech in that deck, so I'm not gonna run this.
Yeah.
I think that you either have to be running research nodes for this, or you have to be a Curse Luke deck with Eye of Chaos. And that's going to be a very fun archetype, or like a very weird, fun archetype where you like try to drop a bunch of clues on your location and then use curse tokens to pull clues from all the other locations, but then you still succeed because you like Paradoxical Covenant, and then you end up getting all the clues on your location back. I don't know if that's ever going to work, but if it does, let me know because that sounds hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's neat, and I think that would be that sounds like a good way to use it. And then lab coat, it's got this. So we got a body slot for survivors. Oh my god, seekers, 2 cost,
Yep.
1 XP. When you would fail a skill test on a seeker card by 1 or less, exhaust it, you succeed by 0 instead. This can like weirdly. I think this can stop an auto fail because
Yeah.
you succeed
agree.
instead. It's replacing the failure.
But only on a difficulty 1 test, which is
Yeah.
important because messing with difficulty is one of the things in this. And I'm actually
Exactly.
kind of wondering if so there's a bunch of science card in this pack. People are wondering if Kate is going to. She's actually, I think this is Kate on the previous art.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that's her, right? If she's going to be in the next box, or maybe that she even was planned to be in this box and then got moved.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
And one of the things is that Kate Wint Bob, I think it's her alter ego Barkham version messes around with like the difficulty of skill tests.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be surprised to see that would be her archetype because that works with this. Then any difficulty 2 test you can out of succeed by
Yep.
pulling this.
Yep.
It's worth like. So the important thing is, and I had this like waiting for Frank to get this during his first look, but it says Seeker card, not Seeker asset.
Yep.
So I think the place that it actually shows up probably the most is in a lot of Seeker event decks. Like if you have Burning the Midnight Oil and Fighter or not Fighter Flight, I've Got a Plan and all that sort of stuff, then I think you want this because I don't think there's enough assets that have like tests that you want to trigger. I mean, Fingerprint Grid's great.
Yeah.
I had Rex deck ages ago, not even ages ago, it wasn't that long ago. Rex with Crafty in Edge of the Earth. And that deck probably would have run a lot good. It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Well, also, I think we got clothing or armor in every faction, which is
Yes.
important because we got Hidden Pocket.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah. Next card, fantastic art.
Yeah. Coolest art. This reminds me of I don't know if you played Demon Souls. Have you played Demon Souls?
I haven't.
Okay.
haven't.
When you spawn in the Nexus, you spawn in this like ghostly thing that you drop into way later in the game, and this background art kind of reminds me of it. But this is just rolled on a stick, right?
Sorry, it's what?
It's rolled on a stick.
Yeah. It's also sort of pseudo Alter Fate, but not as permanent. But it's still, like in all the cases, it's still Alter Fate.
Yeah.
I love this card. I think again it's a Daryl card because you can blank a treachery that was going to ruin you, and now you can get the evidence off of it.
Exactly.
I think it's good. I do want to officially voice my criticism that spells should use charges and not secrets. Even seeker spells should just use charges because otherwise you're just ruining the fun for Akachi. I think this would be a fun Akachi card. But
It
you
would
can
be a
take
fun
it.
Akachi card. I'll be right back. Do you want to talk about Existential Riddle?
Well, twist my fucking arm, will you? Yeah, I do. This is my preview card. It's a riddle. It's actually really cool to. Well, I mean, I didn't make this card, so I don't know why I'm like so over the moon about this card, but I do like it. Like I don't know, I have a connection to this card. So it's a. I need to hold it to the camera because now you can't see it on his view. It's a one cost event, 1 XP, willpower, intellect icons, insight, and paradox traded. I had a lot of fun messing with this card for previous season. I did a whole like riddle thing about how people were having to figure out what it actually did. And so it's a parlay, doesn't provoke the opportunity. You choose a non-lead enemy at your location. You test willpower, intellect 8. If you succeed, automatically evade the chosen enemy and attach it to it, and then it gains aloof. And then there's also one more line of text where this reduces the difficulty by the number of cards in your hand. So if you're playing a big hand style, if you have fine close, if you just have a bunch of draw in your deck, this is typically going to be a pretty easy test for you to pass if you're Seeker. And there's a bunch of things you can do in this expansion. I actually want to ask Bradley about the fact that we have a lot of tech in this expansion. I actually just want to look through the Guardian cards real quick. That cares about like not killing enemies. Because I'm kind of curious. I know there's a couple more coming up down the line, but I don't want to spoil everything. But like we have the bolas, and we have the handcuffs, and we now have existential riddle. And so it feels like we're really getting a bunch of cards that help with not killing enemies, but like hindering them in some way. And obviously there's power word, which we're gonna get to, which is card in Mystic that lets you like use one of the enemies as your kind of like servant. But I'm kind of wondering if the Scarlet Keys campaign is actually going to have a bunch of enemies you don't want to kill, kind of like vengeance enemies in Forgotten Age. So yeah, I like that Seeker is getting a very how you put it. They're getting a very Seeker way of dealing with an enemy where it's not as like killing an enemy like Guardians would, and it's not like a rogue showing off thing. It's very like fragile. The enemy's still there. You haven't really killed it, but you've distracted it, and maybe that's just good enough for you to get the job done. I really like that Seekers aren't just throwing acid at it.
Yeah,
Hey,
I
you're
completely
back.
agree with everything you've said.
Excellent. Did you actually hear what I said, or is it just? I do actually have a question for you. Now that you're back, so we've already seen bolas and handcuffs, and now existential riddle. Do you think we're getting more cards that help you deal with enemies without killing them, because that's going to be a thing in the Scarlet Keys campaign?
You know what? Probably. I expect that these are being printed because there's a lot. There's a lot of cases where not defeating an enemy can be helpful, and I think expanding on that space is really good in general. But I think I do suspect that we're seeing so many of them in this box because it will be good to do that in the campaign.
I have my rogue stack lying next to me, and the top card cares about it because Demic Testimony cares about it. There's Power Word coming up later. Like there are already cards in this expansion that care about it.
Exactly.
But I'm kind of curious if it's also going to be a campaign thing.
I think it will be. I suspect it will be.
Okay. Well, now that you're back, can you tell us about guidance?
Yeah, guidance. It's 0 cost, willpower, wild. It's the exact same as guidance, except during their turn, the chosen investigator gets +1 to each of their skills and may take an additional action. Playing guidance does not provoke attacks of opportunity. So the big thing
What's
is
the
that
original?
it's like mostly the same, except it's just that they get an extra action during their turn. This one gives them +1 to each of their skills as well.
I'm curious. No, and it also doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity because the original provoked.
Yes, that's right.
Which is actually kind of relevant because
And I think it was just a wild as well for the icon.
Yeah. It's getting one icon.
So I had this like goofy deck that I've been trying this idea that I've been working on for a really long time, which is like Harvey with Farsight looping his deck to play guidance over and over and over on a Wendy with Quick Learner and who has taken everything that can give her bonus actions. And so this just makes that combination like even sillier.
Yeah, it is.
But at the same time, like I've never actually done it. It's just something that I've always had in my head of something I want to try. and it'll be really cool to see if I ever get it to work. If this is worthwhile.
Honestly,
I actually have played this. I've played this in Harvey next to Mark,
oh, okay.
and it was insane. It was
Oh,
extremely
cool.
good.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't ever played the original Guidance because the Seeker is usually the one who wants more actions, not fewer
Exactly.
actions.
Yep.
But I will say the fact that it says they get +1 to each of their skills for the round.
Really good.
Oh wait, no, sorry. During their turn. Oh no, it doesn't work. I was thinking, does this work with Carson? Is the question because it's Seeker Carson can take this. Does it work if you play this first action and then second action you give one of your Carson actions to them? Do they get +1 on that action? I don't think they do, right?
During their turn this round, I don't think so because of that whole like doing actions outside of your turn. Is it your turn thing?
How does this?
I think I am of the opinion that those are like only actually during your turn, but I
It
know that
says
that's
they may
not.
immediately take an action as if it were. I don't know. We'll follow the one away for later. The
Yeah.
thing is, I like this more in Carson because being able to
Oh
dump a
yeah,
bunch of extra actions on somebody else
yeah, it's
is
more
great.
ways to give someone like you use Carson's action to give someone an action. You only get to do it once, right?
Yeah,
Guidance lets you do it another time, but during their turn.
yeah. Talk about a glow up.
Yeah,
Like,
working on something bigger.
yeah, I love that. I love how, when they get cheeky with the flavor text and the
This is
like
just a
titles.
huge upgrade, though, right?
Yeah,
Like
this
this
card's so
is
good.
so it's the same thing except it's the same thing except like way better.
So yeah, so for those of you who've only ever played Melisson as a one-cost 2/2 soak, which I am slightly guilty of, he's still bad, although he costs 2 XP now. But for that 2 XP, you actually get a very powerful ability instead of an ability that you were only like using once every like fortnight. Because when any investigator at any location, it doesn't just have to be you, it doesn't even have to be at your location, draws an encounter card from the encounter deck, you exhaust Melisson, you drop a clue. Investigator draws another card from the top of the deck, looks at both of them, picks one of those to resolve, discards the other. So if you draw Ancient Evils, you don't even shuffle it back into the deck, it goes in the bin.
That is all that needs to be said about this guy. You've summarized him perfectly. He's nuts. I don't know. I think he's incredibly good, and he's going to be super strong in this whole clue dropping idea.
Yeah, so I've been playing TCU Sister Mary with the Runic X Dragon Ball, and then next to that was Daryl Clue Dropper or
Yep.
Butterfingers. I think Jonathan Flame was trying to make Butterfingers happen, and I'm not a native English speaker, so I don't know if that's like a reference or something. But I figured it was funny
Butterfingers is
enough.
what you say about someone who can't hold on to things.
Okay, sure, yeah,
Yeah.
Butterfinger. Anyway, the this card is it's so good. Even if you're just like, this is a fine card. If you haven't used the ability yet, and you have the next card that we're going to talk about, Press Pass, then you might still go like, well, let me just look at what the next card is going to be. Because if that one's really bad, then we can just discard that for free. You can take the card you had anyway.
Yep.
And if the next one's a freebie, you just take that.
Yep.
Okay, Press Pass. Make the archetype sing, because this is the big one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the 4-cost accessory slot. After you spend one or more clues or place a clue on your location, one or more clues on your location, exhaust it. You can take an additional action during this turn or your next turn if it's not currently your turn. Pretty good card, quite expensive, and uses up your
Yeah.
accessory slot, but like, you're just going to go so fast,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, so that's the thing. I don't think you're actually going to go much faster, but what this does is it takes all those effects that make you drop clues, and instead of making them tempo negative, it makes them tempo neutral, which because of the fact that those effects are also super powerful because they expect to be tempo negative,
Yeah.
makes this card really strong.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree. That's exactly it.
play Captivating Discovery, drop 3 clues, get an extra action from this, use that action to use your research notes to pick everything up. You've gotten everything back. It's so
There's
good.
also this, on the Raven's Quill, I mentioned not having any ideas of what to do, but like Interwoven Ink, after you resolve an action ability on the attached
right,
asset,
yeah.
exhaust the Raven's Quill to ready your pressed pass. So if you put this on like your research notes,
Yeah,
right?
it's disgustingly good.
Yeah, no, there's really something cool there. Even though the Raven's Quill, putting it on the research notes is kind of weird, because it's a level 0 card, I still think it's
No, I've done it. It's actually really good to make it not provoke attacks of opportunity if you're playing as Daryl, because you want to be able to get clues at locations with enemies without having to provoke attacks of opportunity.
Yep.
It's a really neat way to do that.
Yep.
Surgical Kit is playing board games, I think, again.
Yep.
Really curious card. 2 cost, 3 XP, item, tool, and science. For some reason, this is tool traded. Kaimani can take it. I don't think they do. It uses 4 supplies. When one of your card effects heals damage from an investigator, you spend the supply to either heal 1 additional damage or draw a card and heal horror. Importantly, it only triggers when you heal from an investigator.
Yep.
And then double action, heal 3 damage from an investigator or ally at your location. I think this is just a Vincent card that you play so you can double action clear your weakness and then get a lot of extra tempo benefits whenever you start healing people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think Surgical Kit's pretty good for Vincent. I don't know who else takes it that much, but it's like decent XP.
Carolyn?
Yeah, Carolyn. Yeah. Oh, right.
Because it
It's
heals
just
horror.
horror. Yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah.
But also, how often are you healing damage on Carolyn? Oh, she has the Hallowed Mirror though. Yeah, okay.
Hallowed Mirror, like everybody runs Hallowed Mirror.
Okay.
Also, Carolyn can take Garish, and
Yes. Ooh, that's
although
a good
wait,
point.
it's one of your
Oh, no,
cards
it's only
from an
during-
investigator.
Yeah. There's the trick. You
No.
cannot perform surgery on allies. They are not important enough.
Shame. Fingerprint Kit, level 4. I love this upgrade. I think it's hilarious that there's only Vincent can take this, so the only person in the box that can actually take this is Kaimani.
Yeah, it's weird.
I actually think it's actually I think it's a reasonable card for them, but we'll get into that in a minute. So it's 1 more expensive than the original. It's 4 XP, 1 more icon. It has the same number of uses. You spend the supply to get +2 intellect and discover 2 additional clues. It's
Rite of Seeking.
Rite of Seeking. Thank you. Yeah, Rite of Seeking without the. Yeah.
It's literally Rite of Seeking.
I think this card is actually.
It's fine.
Like, I would consider playing this card in Kaimani in 3-player.
Yeah.
Because Calculated Risk is such a good card.
Yeah.
And getting 3 clues for an action as a flex is incredibly strong.
Yeah.
But I'd have to be, like, the stars would have to align for me to actually put this in my deck. Like, I have to be playing in 3-player, I have to be playing a tool belt deck, and I have to be playing a bunch of intellect cards or a bunch of wild icon cards, which I think you can definitely do in Kaimani. But I think the fact that this is such a large amount of compression, I think a lot of people might be like, well, it's kind of boring, and I've seen a bit of dismissiveness for this card, but I think, like, end of the day, a lot of the times just getting a bunch of clues is how you win scenarios, and this card gets you a lot of clues.
Gets you a lot of
and obviously
clues.
Rogue Econ helps get the cost under control there.
No, I agree. It just chunks you clues as fast as possible. That's about as quick as you can get them unless you're doing Guiding Stone stuff. If you're not doing, like, infinite combos with Working a Hunch or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's good. I'm usually a little disinterested in Rite of Seeking level 4, and I'm not super interested in this one, but I think it works. And so it's good.
Yeah, agreed. It's a very, like, simple tool belt or
Exactly.
toolbox kind of card.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
this is what you want to do.
Yeah. Grey's Anatomy. It's
Other end of the spectrum. It's very combo-y and weird.
Yeah. It's a really weird card. You choose a card at your location, test your intellect. For each point you succeed by, either the next time that card would be healed, it heals +1 damage or horror, or the next time it would be dealt damage, it deals +1 damage. It's a strange card. I think it's probably, like, it's obviously for Vincent and Carolyn because it's been ruled that they can take it. I don't know who else I'm really taking it on. I guess you could take it on Daisy. That might be interesting.
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking. Daisy. Like, the thing is, a lot of people have pointed this out, but, like, the damage effect is actually a lot of damage if you can get it to work out like that.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's a Raven Quill build that does the do no provoke attacks opportunity and the Tudor effect, like the search effect. So you only have to get 1 copy of this card, and you can have 2 copies of Raven Quill. So
and
you don't have
really
to.
self-sufficient if you did that, and then, like, just punch someone with Mind Over Matter,
Yeah, exactly.
or did an Occult Invocation and dealt, like, 6 damage or something crazy.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
a lot to do.
This works on elites, importantly.
Yeah.
Like the thing that I said when this card was previewed, because it was previewed, I think Tango Plan, which did, like, the best. I don't know if you were there if you've seen the video. They did the what's the stupid song called from Fast and Furious? Like, Then I'll See You Again.
Yeah.
The, like, hyper dramatic montage music with all the, like, preview video stuff. So they had, like, optimal play in the pool and, like, all the cards being It was so funny because they were, like, playing it straight. It was so funny. But sorry, I just saw this card and I had to think of that. I had to shout him out because it was, like, one of the funniest things I've seen.
I think that was the only part of that stream I
Yeah.
actually caught all of.
Yeah, so funny.
was good.
But yeah, the thing is that this is not 5 XP because it is, like, a single use of this effect is super powerful, but the fact that it doesn't exhaust, doesn't have any kind of uses, and doesn't really have a reasonable limit other than the max 3 is what makes this 5 XP. Because if it like, you can just use it however much you want, right?
Use
It's
it every
action,
turn in a 4-player game.
Yeah.
Make the Guardian kill something in 1 hit. Carry on doing the rest of your stuff. And if someone takes too much damage, use the other one on them, heal them, and then carry on doing your other stuff. Like it's just really efficient. If you can crush that test, right?
Yeah.
And you do need to be set up to crush the test, and you're
if only
Seeker,
you were playing Seeker.
Yeah, if only you were playing Seeker.
Okay.
Yeah, where every card has 2 intellect.
Okay, so I know that I'm usually the Survivor player. Like I'm pretty well known for being a massive Survivor fan.
Yeah.
This is the box where that's the exception.
Yeah.
I love every single rogue card. I'm pretty sure I love every single rogue card in this box.
Yeah.
It is such a great rogue box.
Gaming Testimony is probably like surprisingly one of the ones I'm the least hyped about. But but it's still really good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair. Yeah. Produced by Drawn to the Flame. Shout out to Frank and Peter. It's like I had a moment of panic. I was like, what's name? What's name?
Oh no! God. Yeah.
So this is at level 0 with no upgrades. This is basically a fingerprint kit that requires you to have an enemy somewhere.
Yep.
But then also you never lose the evidence if you don't succeed, which is a thing I think a lot of people have been like kind of underestimating. But don't forget, this just like it has like autofill protection basically built in, and then when you upgrade it, you just get like extra intellect, more uses. I think expose is kind of search warrant is fantastic in TCU. I would imagine.
Yep.
Like I've honestly considered that the next time I go play TCU with a rogue, I just in the thick of it for search warrant and then whatever, like probably Karen's Oval with the other 2 XP.
Yep.
Because it's just like getting that first scenario, you can just ignore all those stupid locations that like deal you damage or you discard cards whenever you get clues. Like none of that.
I don't have a lot to say on Gaming Testimony. It's good. You can gather clues real quick with it. You can do a lot of other neat stuff with it. I think it's a really cool toolbox card to do a lot of different things and solve a lot of
different
problems.
show my Friends in Low Places things.
Friends in Low Places.
Yeah, so tell us about your friends.
Yeah, Friends in Low Places. You choose a trait. You record it on the sheet. You look at the top 6 cards of your deck. For each looked at card with the chosen trait, you can spend a resource to add that card to your hand and then shuffle. And then the upgrades let you play it on other investigators, choose more traits, and if you see a card with both traits, you don't have to spend the resource. Bolstering gives them wild icons until the end of the phase. The cards that you added. Clever lets you reorder them on top instead of shuffle. Prompt makes it fast. Experience increases the card, and Swift lets you play one of the cards that you added to your hand. So there's a lot of different ways you can make this extremely useful for fetching the exact card you need.
Yeah. So the first of all, the first trait that I think you're gonna pick most of the time is item. Yeah. And the second most picked trait is illicit. And if you want to versatile for both of those, you're going to want to do in this box. Because one of the nice things about this box is also there's a lot more weapon illicit cards. There's a lot more event illicits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The other thing is the helpful trait doesn't seem that great in most cases, but if you're playing Bob, name item, put this in your deck with helpful, you just give them items that you can then play for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're playing Winifred, bolstering and then prompt, so it's fast and you can just draw a bunch of extra ball icons whenever you need it.
Oh, that's cool. I never thought about that. Yeah, I like that.
Also, I had this or I didn't have it, but my friend had it in Charlie naming ally, because obviously you just name ally, and he would routinely see 3 allies with this, and it's just okay, well, pay 3, I'll draw 3 cards. It's what?
Yep, no, that's cool.
So good. Yeah. Okay, I want to talk about this card.
Yeah, go ahead.
I really want to talk about this card. So, Honed Instinct. 1 cost event, 1 agility icon. It's a gambit. You play it after it's fast, and you play it after either the agenda or act advances, or you succeed a skill test with 3 or more. You get to take an action as if return. Very important, and I missed this the first 5 times I read this. Max once per round, which really matters because I had an idea for this card that doesn't work because of the max once per round. I mean, it still kind of might work. But then the upgrades are 5 different extra conditions. Yep. I don't really care about those as much because I think the original 2 are the most consistent ones. If you're rogue, you just kind of succeed by 3.
Yep.
But the ones that really matter are for 2 XP. During the action you get from this, you get +2 to each of your skills. The rogues that I am most excited for this are Skids and Finn, and maybe Jenny. And in that case, getting +2 to each of your skills really matters. It's such a big deal.
Yep.
And then the big one, I think, is Impulse Control. I kind of feel like this card is balanced around Impulse Control and kind of the assumption that you're going to get that. Because it makes it so you can take 3 copies and all the copies get -1 cost.
Yeah.
At which point I feel like this is basically 3 XP for sort of a myriad quick thinking.
Yep.
quick thinking also 0 cost gives you an extra action, but you have to pass that test. And I've had plenty of times where like I really want to commit this quick thinking because I would really like to get the extra action, but I can't figure out a way to succeed the test by 2. So I either have to really risk it or I can't do it. This is risk free, right? You will never lose your quick think. You'll never lose your hunter instinct because you didn't succeed by 3.
Yep.
And then the final upgrade, I'm not sure about. It feels like it's very expensive. Force of Habit, when you play Hound Instinct, you may take 2 actions instead of one at a time, and then you remove it from the game.
I think that a Force of Habit, what it does is, I know a lot of people were saying, like, hey, if these are max once per round, then you need, like, a really weirdly tempoed deck to, like, make the best of these. And I think that Force of Habit is if you can't get that tempo down pat, you just get rid of it. And now if you're looping your deck, you don't have to draw it again. You draw other stuff, right?
The thing that I really want to do, and I actually tried doing this, but I built it in a solo deck, and then I started playing TFA, so I immediately died. Was either Finn, Jenny, or Trish, probably Finn, with Juvenile Serum. Because again, this is sort of a myriad card. You can get 3 copies of this. You can get 3 copies of Easy Mark. You can get 3 copies of Triaces. That's 9 cards that you have duplicates of in your deck.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna have this like massive hand full of options that don't take up hand size. I think that's really good.
Yeah, no, that's a cool card.
And also that also helps with kind of the tempo-y thing because you want to keep one of them in your hand at all times so you can draw the other and then get an extra draw from from the Dreamland Serum. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was
cool card. Really
excited
to play with it.
I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Disguise is our first trick asset, I believe.
Yeah, nobody else mentions it. It's like, have you not tried and then been disappointed by Rita? Like, the fact that she gets assets now, I'm genuinely excited about the fact that Rita gets assets now.
Yeah, exactly. +2, so 4 uses. It does cost 3 to play, so it is a little expensive. But 4 uses, a supply for an evade. You get +2 for the evade, and if you succeed and the evaded enemy is non-elite, it does not ready during the next upkeep phase. So this is like a bunch of slipaways on a stick, but with an agility bonus instead of adding your intellect. And I think that this is a card that that for me, Rogue is needed for a long time. I like this card a lot.
I don't know about needed, but I feel like it slips right into a bunch of decks. Yeah. It's really nice. Trish loves it for having easier time getting the clues with her ability. I think it's surprisingly good with Kaimani if you want to double up on your pickpocketings on a single enemy.
Yep.
You just evade them, and then next turn you do the discard evade. So yeah, and it's just like the +2 makes it so reliable. So I really like this card. Also, the fact that it's 4 supplies for 3 cost, I don't think it's like that expensive. Like it's expensive, but you get a lot out of it.
Well, yeah, because they're exhausted for the extra turn. It's like you get to deal with an enemy for 2 turns 4 times, right?
Yeah,
and you get the +2. So like any of the 4 agility rogues that usually have needed to like rely on a lot of card draw to have a lot of agility icons, or once you get XP, play a lot of allies with +1 agility, right? Like all of them are like there's a little bit less pressure there on that.
Yeah. Again, possible skids card.
Exactly.
Ever vigilance
Big
this
skids
out?
card. I think skids wins a lot with disguise.
Not as much as the card coming up, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if that's a thing. I don't know if that's the next. We're skipping a card, but I don't know if that's a skid card.
Yeah.
Embezzle Treasure. Shout out to David. Just good guy in the community.
Yeah. I love David.
Obscure Studies. Yeah. Lola fan.
Yeah.
Build your own Another Day, Another Dollar, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this card. For me, it's not hugely exciting, but I'm really glad that a lot of people are excited about it, and I've already seen a lot of people use this. I think you used it in your most recent Cyclopean Foundations that went up, right?
I did, and we got an extra 10 XP, or like an extra 5 resources at the start of the scenario, which really helped the other 2 setup, which is really nice.
It's a cool card. I don't see myself using it, but I think it's cool that big 4 player groups are going to have this really neat decision space of how is the rogue going to be managing their time and money to help us propel into the next scenario to make that setup even easier.
I did take it out pretty quickly because I wanted to try it, and then I was like, yeah, this seems fun. Also, the problem was like I think we forgot one scenario, so I put like 6 resources into it, and I forgot the next scenario that we actually had that stuff with.
Yeah.
Okay, next is a card that I think if we're talking about like cornerstone rogue cards, I think this is gonna be a big one. These kids, you may investigate using either intellect or agility, and if you succeed, you get a resource in addition to getting a clue. 6 uses.
I've tried to test this in Finn, and I've never drawn it.
Oh, I've played this in Kaimani a lot, and it's fantastic. I don't know if I can swear. Can I swear?
Pardon me?
Can I swear?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm on your channel, and normally on my channel I try not to swear. Now I'm here and just like fouling the place up. But yeah. So I'm actually curious whether or not you think this is a skid card, because the problem that I'm having with it is the agility of 4, which is
Yeah,
not really good
I
enough, I
I
think.
like this a lot more on on the agility 5.
Yeah,
I think if I think I like it in Safina because you get +2 over your intellect. I think if you're getting +2
yeah,
over your intellect, it's very worthwhile.
yeah. That's the thing. Like I
That's where I'm at
like
with it.
I really like anything in skids that can give me additional resources, because I love getting extra actions with disability, right? And that's
Yeah,
like the main,
yeah,
like
yeah,
more
yeah,
money, more actions. But I'm really worried that I'm not gonna pass my tests with
yeah,
this,
yeah.
and
And I
because of
agree.
that.
I think that's definitely a big worry. I will say though that even though Trish has even, I think that it is okay on Trish.
Yeah,
It's just a lot of money, and sometimes you can build
yeah.
decks that just need more money, right?
Honestly, I'm kind of more on the upgraded one for Trish than
Yeah,
this one
yeah. No,
even.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
Hidden pockets, the payoff for all the clothing and armor, or maybe the other way around. But extra slots are super powerful, and I'm surprised by the number of extra slot cards we've gotten in this set. I do understand that like you have to draw the extra slot cards and play them, and be careful with that. But the fact that we get where is it? Where's my, oh, there's my underwear pockets, means that I think this is going to be a fine include in a lot of decks.
Yep. I think
Just
this
getting an extra
is.
slot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's good. It's just good. It's level 0. It's an extra slot. Extra slots are good.
Yeah. Hit
Um,
and run.
hit and run.
Or I'm trying to speed up, because I recognize that I really want to talk about all the road cards for ages, but I don't, and
Yeah,
so I'm trying to focus on the cards that I really want to talk about.
yeah.
Shout out to Winging It,
Yep,
Dishet, I think his name is.
yep.
Um,
Jeff.
Great. Oh, Jeff. Yeah, sorry. His Discord username is Chet, so I have to
Yeah.
remember. But yeah, Jeff. Who doesn't have a Twitter account, which is the reason. Like so funny aside, but I made a tweet yesterday listing all the people who are doing the many faces of Charlie Kane, and I came to the end of the list, and I was like, he doesn't have a Twitter, does he?
No.
So everybody else is like an at link, and he's not on there, and I'm like,
Also winging it.
feel kind of bad about it. Like, if you don't have Twitter, what am I gonna do? So I have
Yeah,
a character, so I can like link to anything else.
yeah,
Slide of Friends. What do you think?
yep. It's good. It's good. It's a good
Good.
card. It's a good card.
So I'm curious. A lot of people are like, "Oh, this is super broken. Why didn't
Nah,
they put the same restrictions as Sleight
nah,
of Hand?" I think it's fine.
nah.
I
It's
think it's
fine.
fine.
It's fine.
Uh,
Maybe in
Jeremiah,
the future it'll be broken, but right now it's
I mean, Jeremiah Kirby already exists, but Jeremiah Kirby also would have probably gotten to boot even if they hadn't printed this card.
yep.
And I like this on Lab Assistant. I like this a lot on Medical Student. Surprisingly, I didn't expect to be Medical Student thing so much, but had fun with that one.
Yep.
There's also Mark. Right, it's a tactic. Mark can take this.
Yep.
Um, I'll take that. Super good economy card.
Super
Don't
good.
forget, you also get the bonus action for playing, because it also plays. So it's kind of like
Yep.
an emergency cash plus a play plus. It's really good. This card's
Yeah.
so good. This is
It's
another like skits on the art.
yeah. Skids
Yeah,
on the
my
art.
man's my man's on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And it's also a trick so that Rita can take it.
Oh
And
yeah,
in my experience, the evade actually is surprisingly relevant.
yeah,
I
because it's
yeah, it's pretty good.
evade humanoids or investigate successfully.
Yeah.
You're often going to want to to investigate. Oh, you're right. I did use this in uh the Rita, you just mentioned her, sorry,
Yep.
with Breaking and Entering, which is coming up,
Yep.
to play like a bunch of scavenging stuff for free. It
Yep.
was really
Yep.
fun.
That's good.
Speaking of being on the arts, this is how Kaimani uses their grappling hook, and you can immediately tell.
Yeah.
So, King the Hornet's Nest. I'm so glad that this was originally mistranslated, because they mistranslated this as Gambit and Trick Traded, and I was devastated, because this is the best Guardian card they've printed in a long time, except that it's not a Guardian card, but at least it's a Tactics or Market take it.
Yeah.
Take it away on Kicking the Hornet's Nest.
Yeah, it's the search the top 9 cards in the encounter deck for a non-elite enemy and spawn it engaged with you. Then discover a clue at your location and gain X resources, where X is the enemy's health. Shuffle the encounter deck. I get why this is a rogue card. I think
Yeah.
I've thought about this quite at length about why it's a rogue card. I think that because it costs you an action to do this,
Yeah, it's an action to make the scenario worse for you, basically, by
yeah,
spawning
but it does
an
give
enemy.
you a lot, and so I think that there's like it fits into that like risk taking nature of rogue, where it's like, yeah, I'll take a little bit more and get something out of it, whereas guardian is like, I'll replace my treachery with an enemy, right? I'll
Yeah, yeah.
guarantee I get an enemy, and I think
Yeah,
I see that, and I think it makes sense, and I think it especially makes sense with this whole thing Kaimani's trying to do, all of these like evade that keeps people around. the existential riddle we talked about, this bolus, right? I think it all is part of that ecosystem, and I've come around to the fact that this is Rogue.
Yeah, I agree. Like I agree with the logic. The main reason why I was like upset about it, and I wasn't really that upset about it, but I was just like a little missed, is that we've literally had this kind of design sitting in the back. Like I've seen this design come by like a dozen or so times in like
Yeah.
when we are discussing what would you do to make Guardian better in true solo, and the
Yeah.
answers always basically come down to they need more ways to at will get enemies so that all their
Yeah.
true fact that only work when they have enemies actually work. Because like we were very happy when they got a bunch of extra clue tech in the Nintendo Joe Pack, but even that was all like, no, if you get punched, if you get attacked, and it's like, well, that doesn't work if you don't get hit,
Yeah.
or if there's no enemies. Quick getaway. Sorry, we're moving on. Quick getaway. I think underrated cards, not hugely underrated, because I think a lot of people are correctly kind of on it, but it's actually the fact that it's a trick as opposed to what's the other card that is it Gambit rated? Swift Reflexes, I think is the one I'm thinking
Yeah,
of.
Gambit.
Like gives you a bonus
Fortune
action
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that this is a trick is actually a major upside because it works with Crafty, it works with Chuck Fergus.
Yep. It can go into Rita, and it's also kind of like an attack. It's also like an action compression thing in the sense that like you can intentionally take an attack of opportunity to use this.
Yeah.
Right? So that you can like do a different action instead. I think it's really good in Kaimani and Rita for that reason.
I don't. The thing is that I don't know if I would ever play it in Kaimani because I'm struggling with situations where I would want to get attacked for some kind of benefit. And if I'm not getting attacked for benefit, it's just an enemy phase attack, then the fact that they're exhausted in the enemy phase doesn't really help because they're going to ready an upkeep.
Yeah,
so
it was more of a level 0 thing.
Yeah. And I think the main thing is Rita, because she gets to do a damage or move away when she plays this, assuming she succeeds.
Yeah.
Card that I couldn't believe people were gold on. Card of the box, I guess. Calculated risk. This card is fantastic. It's inverse. Take the initiative. So.
Yeah.
At the end, for every you play it as your last action basically because it's gonna end your turn. For every action you've taken, you get a wild icon. I've had this be 5 wild icons without even trying, but then I've been playing a lot of Kaimani and they have the grappling hook. This is the card that I think makes Fingerprint Kit work in Kaimani. This is the card that makes a lot of cards work in Kaimani.
Yep.
It's just if you want to pass a test and you want to pass the test by quite a bit, which guess what, rogues are want to do, then this is the card for you. This is just a really good card.
It's a cool card. It's got a really high ceiling. I do think that it has a bit of a high floor too, because sometimes like your most important tests can be at the start of your turn. But if you can manufacture a situation so that you can do an important test at the end of your turn, then it's just gravy, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I think the main thing is a lot of the tests that I think you're taking first action, you can kind of build around already. Like if you're trying to do like an evade first action, for example, then just play manual dexterity, right? But I think this card lets you do a lot of things that you couldn't just get to with normal cards or like with normal skill cards. That this like for example the fingerprint kit thing. I don't think putting a perception in its place is gonna let you do fingerprint kitting in Kaimani.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
We're on to rogue XP cards.
Yeah, stylish coat.
We have a stylish coat, which is fantastic.
Yeah, 1/1. Right, and then when you gain a resource during your turn, another player, via another player effect, you can exhaust it to gain an additional resource.
Yeah.
So it's just adding one to every,
or
to the first of every of your resource gainers per turn.
Ethermark, Lone Wolf,
Toss
Embargo.
One that I'm actually really interested in is High Roller.
Oh yeah, that also works.
If you do it during your turn, you can spend 3 and gain 4, which it's kind of cheeky, but it's interesting because High Roller used to be nuts with Double or Nothing, but with the Taboo on Double or Nothing, if you play Taboo, it's more just like a mid-level money management thing. Yeah. And I think it's interesting that it could be made to give you money again.
I just think people are in generally too low on economy cards that you can get one resource out of every turn. Yeah. Like that kind of setup just ends up being really good, and Status Code's just great. Also, the suck is like not irrelevant. I'm a big believer of like people could just be playing Fine Clothes. But sorry, somebody sending me a Discord message and I'm immediately off track. But like just one more damage and horror can sometimes be the difference between winning and losing a scenario.
Yep.
So
sometimes you can just sack it.
Can you talk about Daddy Chuck?
Baby Chuck. We got Baby Chuck. We got 2 XP Chuck. And it's the exact same as Chuck, except there's a 1 less wild icon, and you only choose one of the effects that Chuck has. And
Yeah.
this is one of those instances where they print a really good card, and then they print a mid-level card of it later that is a bit downgraded. And I just want to hug and kiss MJ because this just makes playing Chuck decks so much easier, playing them through a campaign. Like, needing to spend 5 XP on a single card that is like the linchpin of your deck working can be really rough. And this just lets you spend 4 to get both of them at a bit less efficacy. It's just nuts,
Yeah.
right? It's good.
I mean, I want to cuss and hate Maxine too, but I don't talk about that on the internet. Maxine's great. Okay. The card that makes me want to kiss and hug people, Dirty Fighting. I love this. I love this card so much. This card is exactly what I want. Like, I can't even list the number of decks that I want to put this in without like getting a little giddy.
Yeah,
I know.
I
It's
know.
limit 1 per investigator, but it's illicit, and it's also a trick. So Rita can take it. Rita's one of the investigators that were excited for this card,
Yeah.
and you can put it in your Underworld Market deck, which is relevant because then you only need 1 copy. While attacking, parlaying, or attempting to evade an exhausted enemy, you get +2 skill value. So if you're Kaimani, your second evade, you get another +2 in addition to your intellect boost. When you're Finn and you're shooting people with your 25 automatic, you're now getting a +2. But then also, after you evade an enemy, exhaust Dirty Fighting, you get an extra free fight action, which ignores the live keyword. So every gun is now 25 automatic. 25 automatic is now double 25 automatic. 25 automatic level 0 is now 25 automatic level 2. This even makes like
so much going for it.
This card, even in Kaimani, is like, oh, I just want to put guns in you now. Please let me give you guns. Like I put a overpowering Kaimani because I'm like, I'm going to be shooting so many people with this. Also, backstab is a fight action. Just FYI. Mm-hmm. Also, that works.
Yeah.
And you get a +2 on the backstab. So yeah, Rita loves this. I think even with like, I'm just thinking with the baseball bat. Rita with a baseball bat against the hoods. You just kick him in the nards. I am in favor of.
Yeah, they'll get 1 attack against you instead of more.
Yeah.
And then you'll actually have a really good shot at crushing them because you'll be like 4
Yeah.
up. Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Just punching. Well, they're not actually KKK members. They're not actually clan members, but they look like them. They're evil cultist versions of clan members. Hitting those with baseball bats is a good idea, I think.
Yes, hitting them with baseball bats is a very good idea.
Yeah.
No, it's just a super good card, and I'm excited to play it in like basically anyone that can take
except for Preston. And I actually want to like I was kind of planning on saving that until we got to Underworld Market, but I just want to mention right now, Preston's had a rough go. I mean, I say that, but a couple of the Survivor cards in this pack are fantastic for Preston, so I think he's actually fine.
Yeah, I think he makes it okay with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess who can take it that you're not excited to take it, like Leo.
No, I have a super silly Leo deck that I might put this in.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of
a sniper Leo.
Neo Anderson, the Quicksilver, which is with Blur.
Oh, okay.
Because
Yeah.
Blur you can evade with his willpower, and then you have the 25 automatic, and then you shoot people. It's so stupid, but I want to make that deck work. I don't even want to make the deck work. But it's one of those things where, like, if somebody was like, well, you say you like Dirty Fighting and everything, well, how about doing this? And I'm like, I have a deck ready for you already.
Don't worry. I've got you covered. Yeah.
Breaking and entering. You were talking about Chuck, so talk more about Chuck.
Yeah, breaking and entering level 2. It's the exact. It's if you looked at Slip Away and Cheap Shot and thought, man, I bet they could do breaking and entering level 2. You know exactly what this said before you even open the pack.
Yeah. We could all do card design for this one. This one wasn't too hard.
Yeah. This card, I don't know if this card's too good. It's so much more usable than Slip Away and Cheap Shot, and it's just really fucking strong. Like, it's so good.
I think it's actually pretty balanced because it only gets 1 clue.
Yeah, it only gets 1 clue. It does get the auto evade, but like it only is getting 1 clue, and you still have to succeed by 3, which is a lot.
The thing about the auto evade is that auto evade's not always like the auto evade's only useful if you have enemies to evade, which sounds obvious, but like in the course of a campaign or of a scenario, are you just going to have situations where there's no enemies to evade, and this is basically just like pay 2 to get a really high, like get a lockbacks effect. Yeah. Now, the reason I think this card is good is obviously Chuck can make it fast and free.
Yeah.
Crafty, you can pay for it. Like you need to. I think it's
a bit of a build around. You can put a lot into it to make it like really consistently
exactly.
a lockpicks you don't need to hold in your hand slot.
Right? Yes, exactly. The things that I think you should take away from it is breaking and entering level 0 is really powerful at the right time, but you don't if you were just like the first time you had Break and Enter in your hand, you immediately had to play it, or like you want to play it every round, you might find out that there are a lot of rounds where it doesn't actually do that much.
Yeah.
And so I think it's easy to look at best case mentality and have like this card is super broken, but I think it's actually fine.
Yeah.
I think it's fun and I think it's really good, and I think it enables it disenabled Rita scavenging, which is actually something I mentioned. Really nice way to get that to go. Next up, we have upgraded these kits, playing board games at us again. I really did not see this line of upgrading going, where you only get, in compared to the level 0 version, you only get one additional skill value. You don't get extra supplies. But the effect is you get 2 resources instead of 1 if you succeed by 2.
Mm-hmm.
This is so much money. This is so much money.
I mean, this is. I think you're the first person that said this. Is like, this is hot streak as a thing that can get you clues.
Yeah.
Like,
this is hot streak while you're getting 6 clues.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
you
like
have to succeed by 2 on every single test for this to be hot streak. So I think there's like an argument to make that this isn't quite hot streak.
Yeah.
But even if this is like 5 resources instead of 9 resources, it's still pretty good.
It's still pretty good. So I think this card is good. I think it is tricky. Like, it's a little tricky to use, but for like Winifred, who wants to, for Winifred, this is your new, in my opinion at least, this is your new investigation tool. You'll always have money to play any event you pick up. You're gonna have like at least, so you're gonna be at 6 agility plus any amount that you commit. You commit a minimum of 2 icons because you're never committing less than 2 cards in Winifred, right? So like, there's just so much that goes into this to be like, this is hot streaks for Winifred while she makes progress.
Yeah.
And I think that's.
I mean, I was about to say, well, what does Winifred spend the money on? But we already saw what Winifred spent the money on earlier. That's Friends in Low Places. Winifred's just going to be drawing lots of cards with that. So yeah, I'm real excited for. I think it's neat to have if you have a deck that has ways, or either has a high agility or has ways of boosting their agility very reliably. You were talking about High Roller earlier, which is a card I haven't given a lot of thought to recently, but this works well with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question mark of the back, I think, Jiggerman?
Yeah, he's kind of weird.
This is old. Is Leo Anderson art?
Yeah.
Is that correct? This is old
Someone
Leo
said it was
Anderson
old
art?
Leo
This is kind of funny.
Yep.
So you play him for 4, and then you get a free... where you get to put an asset into play for free. Asset still takes up slots, so that's important to remember. It isn't also slotless. And you can exhaust the Triggerman, spend a resource to get a free action, basically, to use whatever asset you played, or you attach to it. Base skill value 4.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the place you put this in, it's also 2 health, 1 sanity. It's 4 cost. The 4 cost is really what getting me. Obviously, you're getting an asset for free to play, so it couldn't be too cheap. I feel like the place I want to see this is Kaimani with guns.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
you have 2 base combat, now you have 4 base combat, and if you're doing some kind of dirty fighting thing, you're more likely to succeed with that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here that makes it a little weird. I don't think it's bad. I just think that something there's like one number on here that's a little too big. I think it's either the play cost or the XP cost, or
I
something.
really wonder if this was originally meant to be a 2 XP card and it was too good with like Leo Anderson or something.
Yeah, there's something about the balance on this one that reads a little weird to me.
It really feels like it could have been a 2 XP card, but yeah, I don't know. It's a fun card to have. It's also potentially just like a reasonable Charlie card, because base skill value 4 suddenly makes Charlie kind of happy.
True. That's true.
Which, speaking of which, I was really surprised by the lack of allies in this box. Not that there's none, but I would have expected way more.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Underworld Market. This card is really good. It does a lot of really interesting things to your deck. Basically, every rogue, I think, is approaching this a little bit differently, and so is every off-class rogue. Like, there's just so many things you can do with this that makes it really interesting.
I've seen at least one person who was like convinced that this is just like, okay, so you put a bunch of guns in there. It's like, no, honey, we can put so many cards in this. Like,
you can fit so many cards into this baby.
With this box, I think you don't even need to have any assets in there. Although I'm not entirely sure if that's correct. But like, if you just want, like, if you want my list for stuff that will make your deck better in any investigator, I think it's Fence, Payday. I'll take that. Hidden Pocket. And then, okay, this is not any investigator, but like my default list, I guess, is also pickpocketing. And then you just have like there's no guns in there, there's no lockpicks in there, there's no thieves kits in there. So
Yep.
all of those you could still swap in if you want to.
Yep.
But like as just like a support card, the main thing you have to note is that obviously, so you get 10 extra deck slots. Then if you have 10 assets or 10 illicit cards, you can shuffle those in a separate deck, which I'm looking forward to doing.
Yep.
The fact that you get to choose is also very nice. It's not like the Seeker one where you have to pick 5 at random.
Yep. Yep.
But you do have to spend 1 resource, so this is why a lot of the resource cards, I'm like looking at again because I'm like, yeah, rogues have a lot of economy anyway, but now you can also use that economy for drawing more cards, which is very good. Again,
Yeah, exactly.
When Winifred.
Yeah.
Like go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, putting fence in here for me was like a godsend. Like, yes, it costs you 4 to get your fence into play effectively, but everything else after that is fast, and then once you get your other fence, everything after that is fast and a resource off. And that just adds up so much. And then also, I think, like the +10 to your deck size, you just throw in a couple of extra economy cards, so that your economy density is a little higher. Like,
and more cantripy skills.
Exactly.
So your deck
if you want all 10 cards off of your Underworld market, you need to pay 10 more resources over the course of the scenario. So add 10 more resources worth of cards to your deck. That's it, right?
I also just like, in the current age of Arkham, it really feels like 30 deck size is like very restrictive, and this is like a really nice way to get around that a little bit.
I agree. I'm finding it harder and harder to fit what I want to do. If it's like an interesting thing that takes a little bit more than like just 30 good cards, I'm finding it harder and harder to fit that into a deck. And it's really interesting to have something that's very strong that increases your deck size, because I don't like versatile very much.
No,
I find that it doesn't actually do enough for me for the amount of cards it adds, whereas this doesn't actually add cards to your deck unless you're cycling, right?
And even then, you probably have played enough of them.
Yeah, and if most of them are assets if most of them are assets that aren't supposed to leave play, fence, pickpocketing.
I'll take that gets attached to whatever asset you're playing, so that's
exactly
there as well. Hidden pocket as well.
Yeah.
Moving on, because we have like.
I think actually, unfortunately, we're gonna have to cut it short, and we might have to reconvene another time.
Can we talk about the?
We will talk about Clean Sneak, and then we'll do our goodbyes, and maybe we'll plan another time to finish the rest.
Yeah, sounds good. I am disappointed, but on that end, I also agree, because my throat is shut, and I'm still recording Cyclopean Foundations episode 7 tonight. So if I'm just like completely dead on that recording, I'm sorry. So this card is very good if you misread it. If you pretend that the option that it doesn't say different options, this card's actually pretty good. So it's a 0 cost 4 XP gambit trick. It is fast. You play it only during your turn. For each exhausted non-swarm enemy at your location, you choose a option. Just pretend the word different isn't there. Like, okay, so the joke I'm making here is I'm pretty sure I played this card during probably episode 6 then, the last scenario, which is a couple of weeks ago now. And I'm pretty sure I chose deal 2 damage for both options. Which would have been very good, right? Like that's a very powerful card, but unfortunately you can't usually do that. So you choose to gain 2 resources, deal 2 damage, discover a clue, draw a card. I think this is a luxury purchase. I think it's fine. I'm sad that it's a trick that Rita can't take. Like, we're finally seeing more Rita support, and then we're giving her a card that you can't take. And it's also just like, it's not that exciting.
This is my ambassador card, and
I'm sorry.
It's a weird one. Like, I don't know what to make of it. This is another card where I look at it and I think, I feel like a number on this is weird. Like,
this could have been 3 XP.
3 XP, or like maybe even an extra agility icon, like, or
that would have been neat,
or something. Like, I don't think it's bad, and I think if at the point in your campaign that you add this, and it's good, it's going to be really good, right? Like, if you're let's say that I'm Skids and a Guardian with handcuffs or something, right? Like, we've got all these enemies handcuffed, we're carting around with us, and every time I see this card, I get to gain 2 resources, draw a card, gather a clue, and deal 2 damage to an enemy at my location, right? Like,
that's super strong.
Yeah, that's cool, but it's certainly not something you buy with your first 8 XP. It's certainly not something that I even see myself buying until I've got like 30 XP put into a deck, I feel like. So this is going to be a really tough one for me to do Ambassador on, because like, it's going to be late into a campaign before I even buy it, let alone play it, if I get to see it, kind of thing, right? But I think that there's a lot in this set that like supports using this, right?
I think actually handcuffs wasn't even the place that I had gone with this, which is kind of funny, because obviously it should have been. But I just thought of Disguise and Finn. You just evading enemies for multiple turns. Oh, right. That's
Yeah.
why I think I've had this exact kind of thought multiple times
Mm-hmm.
and then realized that Finn can take it at
Yeah.
some point later down the line.
Yeah.
That's why, right.
So
So,
one
that,
thing I am
yeah.
thinking of is running a campaign with all rogues that can take this, and all of them having disguise, and just calling it like Ocean's 11, and then being like, here,
Yeah,
this
that's
is.
fantastic. Oh, you can just do the standalone. You can do the standalone.
Yeah. Yes. Oh,
Um,
there's a good idea.
the thing is with the clean sneak, I think the thing that I'm getting at is I think the card is reasonable even if you don't get four options. I think if you just get like three options or even two options is probably still good.
Yep.
Because it's like the thing is it's fast and it's free. And I think cards that are fast and free are inherently very strong just by nature of how the game plays out. The three action structure is still fundamental to how the game plays, and anything that lets you get economy outside of that, basically, or lets you like cheat the economy, is really good. The problem is mostly like it's not that exciting, even if you get a really good result with this, right? Even if you
Yep.
get I think the best options, like the two damage, is very context dependent. So that's either the best option or the worst option on here. And then resources is usually you're gonna have plenty of those in rogue, but more resources is always better.
Yeah.
Discovering clues testlessly is actually really nice. And then yeah, drunkards again, like action breaking is very good.
Yeah,
All
and I
right.
think I think there's also like something to be said about all of this keeping enemies with you and like the eavesdropping and followed cards, the
Oh
ideas that they
yes, I
were.
love those.
Yeah, the
I
ideas
love
that those
those.
were operating on. It's like if I'm evading enemies and just carting them around with me, can I just run those as like way more copies of two clue events? Like,
Yeah,
can I get away with that? It's going to be interesting to see how that
I think
works.
Kaimani can. I think
I
Kaimani
think Kamani
can.
can. Yeah, Kamani can. I think Winifred can probably afford to do a lot of this just because she has so much card draw.
Hmm.
And I feel like and bonus actions. She can run tons of bonus actions because she can get all these bonus action cards. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that Skids will be interesting to see if you can handcuff people and cart them around. And
Yep.
also Trish because she gets bonuses inherently from having enemies exhausted at a
Yep.
location, right? So yeah. So yeah, like I said, we're probably gonna have to cut it there because I'm like a half hour over my time limit that I had this morning.
Oh well, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
I scheduled extra time for this one, but yeah, I'm super happy. I'm really glad that we got to do this because it was looking a little dicey there for a little bit when
Yeah.
boxes weren't coming out. But yeah, this was super fun. Thank you to everybody who watched. Thank you to everybody on the replay because obviously we were doing this live and. But I'm hoping and expecting a lot of people to watch this video down the line.
Yeah, I hope so.
Hope you liked our looks. Hope my voice is gonna be okay tonight. Um, Thank you, Bradley, so much for inviting me here. It was super fun.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for reaching out. It's been fun. I've really been enjoying how much a lot of the community content creators and stuff have been coming together during the preview season and here now after the preview season too is done and the box is released. And yeah, hopefully we can book something in the next week or two to try and finish the rest of these. I think the investigators ended up taking quite a bit more time than we anticipated. Maybe you were right that we should have. Maybe you were correct in your preamble before before we went live that we should have separated them out. But it is what it is. And
The,
we'll
the, the thing is that I'd listened to Drawn to the Flames first looks, which are fantastic, by the way. Anyone who's listening to this and hasn't
yep
listened to those, go listen to those.
yep.
But I know how long it took Frank and how like slightly out of it he was by the end of it. I'm like, if we're gonna do that in one day, we're not gonna be okay by the end of it.
Well, last time usually I would like hold up a card and be like, I don't think this is interesting.
Yeah, we didn't get that luxury today. Sorry,
No,
you're
no.
stuck with me, and I think every card is interesting.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think that this box has done a really good job of making every card
Yeah,
interesting. And to be honest with you, saying cards aren't interesting from Edge of the Earth is also a bit of a weird one.
I know.
But I meant more like whether something really caught my eye, I'd talk about it, but quickly.
Mhm.
But you know what? I enjoy. This has been really cool. Doing this a bit more long form has been interesting.
Yeah.
Might have to change the name of the video off of Hot Takes because I think. But yeah,
Hilarious. I think it was intentional. Hey,
got to get that
well,
clickbait right.
mhm.
Yeah, so thanks everyone very much for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I will see you next time. You can always catch Veronica over on Until the End of Time. She's got a metric ass load of videos on all the preview season that were really some really good deep dives and quite a few of the new investigators we're seeing. Absolutely check her content out. It's really good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
They're gonna be fewer uploads in the next couple of months, probably because I'm going. I got my internship together finally.
Yep.
Took a little bit while, got a little dicey, but fortunately made it in time.
Nice.
So that's gonna cut down on my recording schedule and my available energy and time. But
Yep.
I've been super happy that it lined up just perfectly. That summer vacation plus the next couple of months were free, so I got to do a lot of Scarlet Key stuff.
Yep.
I wanted to do some Netrunner stuff as well, didn't get to.
Yeah,
but still
I wanted to
very
do
happy,
Netrunner stuff with the new set, but I found over the summer, Oliver just started school in September there, and it was like, oh my god, what happened to our time, right? With just no time at all.
If you have, so I don't want to. Maybe we should discuss this after the recording goes offline because people are gonna want this. Let's discuss this after we cut the
yeah,
feed.
sure thing. Alrighty.
Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll be seeing you until the end of time. Catchphrase.
See you next time.